Yeah, I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been hiding a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat. Yo, grew my hair and took the grill out. Think it's time to put it back in. Trying to get into that big house, turn the crib into the mansion. Needed something with that big bounce. You know I had to hit Jackson. Aaron Rodgers with the quick routes. How much the gang we packing? We on the field at Lambo. Might peel in a Lambo. Murder drills in my camo. They know what the M stand for. Still got fam in Hawaii, yeah. Couple fans in the lobby, yeah. Couple grand in my pocket, yeah. Couple grams of wasabi, yeah. Eye it up, no glasses. Light it up, no matches. Wife it up, no ratchets. Might turn my wife to an actress. And we gon' make a movie, no Kim K. Give a fuck about what your friends say. I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been hiding a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
I'm just sticking to the code, I keep it so G. She asked me what I smoke, I'm smoking OG. I don't fool with too many, only catch me 4 deep. Gotta stay away from snakes, swear these people so creep. I've been grinding for a minute, many labels so sleep. These rappers drop a song, be hot for about a week. I put Gucci on my toes, I keep some cold feet. I ain't paying for no hoes, you niggas know me. I'm about to body the beat. I keep me a hottie with me. She wanna for a fee. Give me that for free. Keep me some money on me. Smoking the gas key. You with me, sheesh. Bonito, cheap, keef.
I got money on my phone and money on me. I got all these hoes, but still lonely. They been blowing on that strong, but still so weak. I've been hiding a drone, but still low-key. We been sitting on the floor, they in the nosebleeds. Lately I've been in control, they can't control me. Yeah, they about to get exposed for being so cheap. I've been sticking to the code and I ain't gon' cheat.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in the room. I been so real, I'm dead to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I got a gas, they running on fumes. Told them way back, it's something new. It's me and Dan, you gotta choose. I'm taking what's mine, I'm doing fine. Don't see the vision, they looking so blind. I hit my lower, I don't got the time. Crossing my T's and he dotting those eyes. Don't take offense if I do not oblige. I can't belabor like none of these guys. They hit me once and I'm cutting the ties. I was so low, but I'm back on the rise, it's real. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm hopping now I gotta go. I'm looking back, they not even close. I had a 4, now I need a ghost. I got a wave like I'm on the coast. Same ones are down and I dare the show. So way that I'm ballin', they think I'm a pro. I'm getting sick by the money I gross. They saying whoa, I told them all what this is. I told them all I don't miss. Said it's my time, look at this shit on my wrist. And when they shootin' this breaks, I'm going in. In a new gear, gotta shift. I cannot stick to the script, I cannot wait. Watch how I get it and flip. It's just how I'm doing this shit that I'm going. Just how I'm doing this shit that I'm going. Ayy, just how I'm doing this shit that I'm going.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On a roll, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream every single weekday right here at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Mafia, after the biggest liquidation event ever, is the bear market here? Or was this just a quick little liquidity sweep before sending it into new all-time highs? That's the question I want to answer with you guys tonight. I know that drop down on Friday was quite insane. Some altcoins getting like 75% drops to the downside and worse. But the question is, guys, was this a big liquidity sweep before sending Bitcoin back up, or are these early warning signs for a potential bear market incoming? I'm going to cover all that with you guys tonight. I'll talk about my thought process here on the higher time frames, talking about if we think the bear market is here. I'm going to give you guys data-based, logical information here, and I'm going to show you the bullish case. I'll show you the bearish case. I'll try to let you know which way I'm leaning and how I am personally trading this price action myself. And, man, what a wild week, or what a wild Friday, I should say. Yeah, we got a lot to look at here on the charts, guys, because, you know, these big liquidation wicks, they can be good for more of a move to the upside after sweeping out all that liquidity down. But there are some warning signs here, guys. I'm going to give it to you straight. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just bringing you guys the information here on the charts. Shoot the charts if you're going to shoot anybody. But yeah, again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm about to give everybody the worst news ever. But you know, I have to cover the bearish case, and we've been talking about that recently over the past week, covering that bearish scenario because. You know, I just know it's not the most popular thing to look at. And, yeah, like, is this a warning sign that we're going to get a bigger drop to the downside? Or was it actually bullish? I'm going to cover that with you guys. So, as you know, I think there was like $17 billion in liquidations. Absolutely insane. But what are we seeing on the charts? What is money flow saying? Are we going down? Are we going up? I'm going to cover everything for you guys and hopefully break it down in, you know, as easy as I possibly can. So, shout out to Vegas Claw in the chat. What is going on? We got Dar A in the chat. Said I long Suey at 83 cents on BitUnex. Absolute Pico low, sold at 235 though. Shout out to Dar. Hey, nice move. I think somebody got filled on Atom with like a $50 order at like 0.001 cent or something like that. So yeah, those crazy limit orders that people have said, you know, a lot of them did get filled yesterday on Friday. But yeah, we'll cover the altcoins as well, guys. As always, you know, we'll go over the altcoins. Most of the altcoins are kind of back to where they were, if not a little bit down. So I know this can be very frustrating, guys, to see those big liquidations. But yeah, I'm going to try to break it down as clear as possible. We got Nirvana in the chat. Lucky's thoughts. What is going on? Said not the chart now, need a new PC. Shout out to Lucky Thoughts. I don't know if that means you're getting a new PC. Hopefully you are. It's always exciting building a new PC. But shout out to Lucia. What is going on? We got Elixir in the chat. Nick Dunn. We got Wick Trimmer in the chat. Said flush the leverage, baby. We got Jay in the chat. Said it'll crash again. We're going to talk about that possibility of potentially coming down and filling the wick. And I'm going to give you guys that real key level that if lost is going to make me kind of say that it is a higher probability that we are entering a bear market. And we are still pretty far off of this level, and it's not too far off of what we looked at in the past. But we got a lot to look at here on the chart, so I don't want to waste too much time here, guys. So without further ado, don't forget to smash that like button. It's free $99 for the next 30 minutes. So smash that like button if you appreciate the free content and the daily live streams here. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. And the stream deck, guys, I got to redo this stream deck. This stream deck has been absolutely choking on me recently. But, all right, so here we are, guys, obviously with the massive liquidation wick here. And again, I think, like, the real question is, you know, a lot of people, and we talk about this a lot as well, right? Like, a lot of times you will go sideways, flush out the longs, send it up, flush out the longs, send it up, go sideways, flush out the longs, send it back up, go sideways, flush out the longs, send it up, flush out the longs, send it up, flush out the longs, send it up, right? We kind of always, I always talk about that, like, in that fashion, right? Like, sweep out the longs, flush it up again. But I'm going to compare this, right? This is going to be interesting. I'm going to kind of go a little out of order here. Well, I guess not really out of order, but I'm going to cover kind of the higher time frames, my overall thought process here from a cycle perspective, and then we'll jump into the key levels, the bear market level that I do not want to lose, as well as some of the local levels that we'll be looking at internally here on the lower time frames for some potentially new trades, and how I am kind of just trading this day to day. But starting off here on the higher time frames, guys, this is the biggest liquidation event we've ever seen. I actually have the I believe it was like 17 billion. Yeah. 16 billion. I mean, insane liquidations here, guys. Just like, look at this chart. Absolutely insane. Just like we have never seen anything like this before. And as I've said, right, a lot of times when you get those flushes of the longs, very oftentimes you guys will see me say like, oh my God, this is nice. We flushed out the longs. Let's send it to the upside. And I'm kind of that contrarian where it's like, hey guys, massive move to the downside. But I have to say this actually looks pretty good, right? Oh, massive move to the downside actually looks pretty good. But as we get to this point in the cycle, guys, it does become more and more difficult to confidently say that it's the low. And I'm just going to give this straight off the bat here, guys. I think there's an argument for both cases here, right? Meaning, is the bear market here, or are we going into new all-time highs? So I'm going to go over both those scenarios with you, show you the evidence pieces, and then kind of show you where I'm leaning for what reasons, right? Because again, you know, you could always say, hey, big liquidation, nice, flush out the long, send it back to the upside. That's great. But something else that we can't forget, I actually talked about this in the premium Discord earlier today, is kind of when you see these liquidations, right? It's not impossible to come back down and fill that wick for lower prices, right? Like down here, we saw a massive wick to the downside with a massive pumped back to the upside. But as we were looking at money flow in this situation, right, the thought process here was lower highs and lower lows to come. And again, this is a little bit easier to make this call, right, even if you are anticipating continuations down, right, to look for that higher low and the higher high, because we still had a lot of time in the cycle left here. But as we get very close to what we look at as the timing of the cycle, right, we're getting very close to where we would think that this is probably going to start coming to an end. Hopefully give us that alt season. We'll cover Bitcoin dominance as well. If you guys have tuned into the channel like in any way, you guys will know every time we look at the dominance, we have looked at the daily bullish divergences, the money flow coming up on the daily as well, looking for that big push to the upside on dominance into some really key levels of resistance. We had our first level here, our second level up here, and we have now wicked up there, and we are now getting that rejection. And the thought process here was lackluster retracement, lower high, lower low, over the long term. And that is one of the positive things that we still have here on the charts, right? We've gotten that push up. Luckily, it was just a big wick. Hopefully, we don't have to see that fill. But, you know, as of right now, right, we're still just projecting these Fibonacci retracements. So that is, you know, before we go into this a little too much, like there are still positive things on the charts. And, you know, we'll look at the alt charts as well. But, you know, it's rough, guys. It's rough because, you know, I see this as a liquidation wick. I understand that, you know, sweeping out this liquidity, you know, could mean that we're ready to go up for another move down, or I'm sorry, another move to the upside. But we cannot forget that, you know, money flow is more often than not going to point in the direction of the continuation of the trend. And right now, right, we have our daily money flow crossing over into the red. We have our 2-day money flow trending out here generally, right? We have our 3-day money flow still looking pretty good. It's kind of thick in the green. Again, these higher time frame money flows have been pretty chopped up. 4-day looks like trash. 3-day looks okay. 5-day looks like trash. 6-day looks okay, right? You have the red dots printing. So again, we'll take a look at that in a minute as well. But last week, you guys will know, we were talking about on Friday when we saw that big liquidation, the weekly close is going to be very important, right? What did we not want to see on the weekly close? Well, very simply put, we did not want to get accepted back into this range, right? We did not want weekly candle closures, so it was very nice to see that, we did not just kind of trend down to fill this wick, which I do still think could be in the cards, but it was very nice to see at least this weekly candle close above this important level of support, sitting at about $107,000 to $108,000. And we've been talking about this, time and time again. Every time we come down here, we're like, super key level of support. We caught the long position here. Came back down for kind of like a second retest, got another move to the upside. But every time we approach these lows, guys, we talked about the possibility of coming down and sweeping the lows here at $107,000, which was okay, right? I would have been okay with a sweep of this level. I would have been okay with a sweep of this level down here. But of course, the market gives you this super confusing structure here, this super complicated kind of range that we have forming up here. And we finally came down and swept those lows, which in a way is nice because, as you know, this 786 Fibonacci retracement sitting at about $104,000 was a level that if we came down here, right, not with a big wick, right, if we were going to come break these lows, I wanted to, very specifically, it would have to be a very aggressive wick for a big snapback to the upside, which again, we've seen thus far. And when we pull up our key levels, which was the 786 from last week that we were looking at from the low to the high, right, we are now back above these levels, right, which is nice, right, and even like the weekly candle closed above that level as well. So very nice, right? We're not getting accepted into the range just yet. It was a quick wick, which is, so far so good, right? Again, I don't want to sound like too mega bullish here either, because I think there is an argument for both cases here, and of course I'm going to go over both of them with you. But right now, like it's we've been talking about this $104,000 level. Like if we come down here, right, there's a high chance that the top is in. But again, with this sweep, this is okay. I'm okay seeing this. It's really the candle closures and really living inside of this range, right? Coming down here, closing daily candles, closing weekly candles, that really starts to look a lot more bearish for me, where I would be eventually targeting the $97,000 POC, which we have talked about time and time again. Every time we come down to retest this value area high, we have to talk about this situation because it is definitely a possibility to get accepted into that range and get the bigger push to the downside. And I'm going to show you the real key level that I'm watching here, which is not far off of this 786 retracement. But we need some more information to play out here, right? Because again, are we going to fill the wick? Is that the sweep? It's very hard to say because we see the wicks fill oftentimes. So again, I'll go over both of those scenarios with you, but right now, we're above 107 to 108K. We're above that value area high. We're above the 786. It doesn't mean we can't come down and fill the wick, and I'll get more into that in just a minute. But right now, like, we're back up here. Like, this is nice. It's like, okay, this is getting sketchy. We're, like, slipping on the edge here. But hopefully we can, like, get our balance and, like, keep trekking up the mountain here instead of falling off the cliff and absolutely dumping down into a bear market. This is going to be a good one, guys. We're going to cover a lot of stuff in this live stream. So, I would still say 107 to 108K, massive, 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 massive level of support. If we get below this range, let's say, again, the situation where you might want to come down and fill this wick, if we do wind up coming down, we have some long positions that we'll be looking in the Discord. But if we do wind up coming back down here and we do start filling this wick, this is kind of where it gets a little bit sketchy in my opinion, right? Because once we start losing this 786, guys, we have to think of this as a potential acceptance into the range and a potential drop down to about $97,000. 96,672 is that point of control. We'll cross this bridge when we get there. But the reason this is so important is if we zoom out, right, and we come up to a much higher time frame and we pull up some of our major, very simple key levels, right? I know a lot of people like to look at the moving averages, so I will just go ahead and pull up the 50-week moving average, which is, an honorable mention level on top of the bull market support band that a lot of people like to look at to anticipate or analyze kind of the health of the cycle, right? This 50-week moving average, you get above it, you flip it to support, you trek on into your bull market, big old correction, right? You wind up holding it as support again, you come back up, you bounce off it again, higher lows, higher highs, beautiful uptrend to continue, holding that 50-week moving average. And you can see that liquidation did bring us, that liquidation wick did bring us just about down to that 50-week moving average. And this is pretty much going to be the level, guys. Like, the only other thing I can see here, if we have to come fill this wick, like, maybe we come down to sweep out this wick below the 50-week moving average, maybe below $100,000 for a very aggressive fake out for new all-time highs. But again, if we come back down here, guys, and we start interacting with this 50-week moving average, I have to say it is starting to look, at that point, right? At that point, it would start to look more and more like the top is in for Bitcoin, right? And I know people don't want to hear that, right? I know people hate hearing that. And again, I'm going to show you the bullish case as well. There is a bullish case. Stay tuned, guys. There is a bullish case. And, we're not here yet, right? But if we do come fill this wick and we don't see some kind of fast liquidity sweep here like we saw here where it's just get right back above the level, I am starting to worry about the bear market potentially coming in. And to be quite honest, right, like it's not super out of the ordinary to start thinking about this stuff this late in the cycle, right? We talk about the timing of the cycles constantly here on the channel, bringing up our cycle chart, which has all the measurements. And, we're coming up to that 1-to-1 fib here, which is very close to where I would anticipate the top coming in. And again, I will say the bullish case, guys, could wind up turning out to be very bullish. So again, I'm just going over the bearish case first, right? We'll start with the bad news and then we'll go over the good news. But once you break below that 50-week moving average, at that point, guys, what is going on here, right? We are obviously accepted below our, where is it at? We are then at that point, right, potentially getting accepted. This is obviously going to move as price action develops. But once we start getting back in this range, guys, this is where things really start to get sketchy. Same thing we looked at back here, right? Come on down to the daily, right? Same thing we looked at back here and back here. We start losing this range, right? If we come down here, what do we want to see? Quick wick, quick reclaim. We've got that right now, right? But if we do go down and fill that wick and we start hanging out down here, it just gets very, very much higher probability, right? You start losing that 786. And again, if I pull up the weekly, you can see that 50-week moving average is right on that 786, right? So we start losing that. At that point, right, I think the drop down to $96,000 is the highest probability move. And at that point, I have to assume that high time frame money flow is coming out. And even if we are looking for the bounce, right, we are probably looking at that as a lackluster bounce for lower highs and lower lows, potentially pointing towards a much bigger correction into what I would consider a 4-year cycle bear market. Don't freak out, guys. Don't freak out. We still got the bullish case. Don't worry. I hate bringing up this news, guys. But, I have to cover this because we even covered last week when we looked at this 4-hour money flow crossing over into the red, right? We took the short up here in the premium Discord. We anticipated the full fill of the range. And it's really funny, right? I think somebody in the live stream last week was like, the charts don't mean anything, right? The charts don't mean anything. We dumped because of the tweet, right? And it's so funny because I always think to myself, well, that's kind of interesting, right? Because if we were looking for the shorts up here and money flow is coming out and we're looking for at least a continuation through the rest of this profile to come down to that value area low, right? Like we were looking for shorts up here. If you were shorting on the actual tweet, right? Like, I mean, maybe you could have, if you were quick, you could have like entered in, closed the trade and made some money. But at that point, right, you're like kind of too late, right? The money flow saw this dump incoming way before the tweet. I don't care about the news. I don't care about the tweets, right? Show me the charts and let the news fill in the blanks, right? We just need the signal. And then whatever that news decides to be, if it wants to give us that big dump down, obviously I was not expecting this wick down to $104,000. But, if you look at where price kind of settled here, if you ignore the wicks, right? The wicks are not as important in my opinion, because, again, the reason we saw this big wick was clearly because of liquidations, right? This isn't just people selling and giving up. This is based off longs getting absolutely cooked out of the market, adding that extra sell pressure, giving you that big liquidation wick. And I did this with the premium Discord earlier today. If you were to just kind of delete this, if you were just going to kind of delete this wick, which obviously we can't do, but if you were just, stick with me here, right? If you were to get rid of this wick, right? And it was not to some kind of like crazy liquidation, right? Like, what does this look like, right? Well, this looks like our original plan, right? Which was to short here, look for the drop down to the value area low. And now we're holding that value area low. And of course, we're going to get to that bullish case for the move up as well. But, if you just ignore that wick, right? Like this is pretty much exactly what you would anticipate, right? Drop through the range. Of course, we got the big liquidation, but disregarding that, you come down to the value area low. What are we holding as support? The value area low. So this is, it's trading very technically, other than those liquidations. And even those liquidations, right? Once we lost this 786, where were we looking down to? We were simply looking down to the value area high and the 786 down here, which is exactly where we went. But, again, negating that wick, it's like, not too bad, right? Like, and if you start looking, obviously, if you look at the spot charts, you're not going to see those wicks, right? Like, what does this look like? Well, it's a higher low, technically. So I know it gets like really emotional. It gets really scary on those big wicks to the downside, and it could potentially be foreshadowing for a much bigger drop to come. But, when it's based off liquidations like that, we just need more information here. Like, are we going to come fill the wick? I'm not quite sure, right? But if we did, what I can say is, like, this is not very good, right? Because we hang out down here, get stuck inside this volume profile. I think the chances of a bear market being here is going to be much, much higher. But we're not there just yet. Thank God. We closed this weekly candle down here, guys. That's why I said pay attention to the weekly close on Sunday, because, if we close down here on that weekly candle, guys, I would have a much different tone. I'd be like, guys, this is not good. And, I'd be begging for forgiveness to give you the news that I would have had to say, which is like, hey, it's looking a lot like the top is in on Bitcoin. But that it's like literally exactly what we needed to see to not have to call for that just yet. So, the continuation of the nail biter cycle that we have here is just continuing. Even on the big drop to the downside, you think like, oh, this is going to show the cards. Maybe it's just a bear market. And then we're just right back up. So the nail biting continues. I mean, we even take a look at the RTY, which is something that we look at for the altcoins, right? Like if this thing can break out, right, very good for altcoins. And we got obviously a very big rejection here, but now we're right back up to the key level of resistance. So the nail biting continues. And I wouldn't say there's anything decisively here yet for me to say, that's it, guys. We broke below the 786. It's the bear market. We'd have to come down here and interact with this wick a little bit more. But, you know, my key levels remain exactly the same for the most part, right? It's like that $108,000 level, is value area high, is going to be absolutely massive to watch. And then if we break down in to fill this wick, the only thing I can really see here is that, like, maybe you come down for one more sweep. And I don't want to try to make, like, the full call here, but it's like you really got to get going at that point, right? Like we got to start getting this move to the upside. Otherwise, things can get very, very ugly for Bitcoin. And the question is that the bottom? Is that it? Sweep out the liquidity, bottoms in, send it back up? Or is this going to be a situation where you come down and fill the wick? Well, when we start to look at money flow, right, our 4-hour money flow is still continuing into the red, right? So this could indicate that we could put in lower highs and lower lows, and I'll bring up those local key levels of resistance if we're going to look for that continuation down. Money flow on the 4-hour is still coming to the downside. Daily money flow is just chopping around here. Technically, it is in the red. We do have a green dot looking to print here as well, so we can keep an eye on that. But when it comes to money flow, you know, I could say the daily's in the red. I could say the 2-day is trending out, but it's not super decisive here. And then again, you come up to the higher time frame. 6-day looks pretty good. You have the red dot, of course, but money flow looks pretty decent. And the weekly money flow also looks okay, right? We're pretty thick in the green still. So, you know, when I sit at these charts and I try to figure out, you know, like what are the chances that the top is in here, it gets very difficult with the mixed signs on Market Cipher B. And as I've said in the past, right, like it's going to be more of a retracement, right? Like if we get that move down and we start to retrace off this $97,000 golden pocket, right? It's like, or I'm sorry, point of control. You know, what is money flow looking like on the higher time frames here? If we get this and on this retracement, money flow is coming out, well, I would have to say that it's very, very similar to what happened in 2021, where you come down to a key level, you start to retrace. But if your high time frame money flow is coming to the downside, even like on the 4-day, right? That 4-day money flow crosses over, you get the continuation of that trend. And then as you're bouncing off this support, and you're retracing to the upside, what is happening to your high time frame money flow, right? Well, you get the retracement up, but your money flow is coming out. That's a clear sign that you're going to put in a lower high. And when it's on the weekly like this on money flow, it indicates the longer term trend. And on the weekly, it could indicate macro lower highs for macro lower lows, indicating the potential bear market. And the money flow crossovers indicated the bear market every single time. So, you know, I can only make that call when we get down there and see that information. But I can only assume, right, if we do get stuck underneath there, being that we're getting accepted into the profile, if we see that money flow coming out, I'm saying lackluster retracement, lower high, bear market, right? I don't know if we're going to retrace right there exactly, but we're not there yet, right? But I want you guys to be aware of these key levels and these situations, right? Because you can see how fast they can come into play. We've talked about this level so many times, and I'm sure there's some people out there like, what the heck? This guy keeps bringing up that 786. Like, there's no way we're going back down there, but you could see how fast things can change. So that's kind of the bearish outlook, right? Timing-wise, probably coming close to the end here. Money flow-wise is a little bit chopped up. And the idea of filling this wick could indicate that we're going to get accepted down here. So that's the bearish case. And luckily, that's about all I have to say about the bearish case. So we'll get into the bullish case and the opportunity of this potentially being the low and a massive move to the upside and what we would actually want to see to get that big move up. And again, I kind of compare this. I've been kind of comparing it recently to this price action down here, right? You get this big wick down, lackluster retracement up, you wind up filling the wick, right? You get another big wick down here, massive move up, but you wind up coming down to fill the wick, and you just continue down. And this was obviously signified by money flow, right? When we longed this move to the upside in the premium Discord, and we were 100% looking for lower highs. We were short from 102K. I think it was 102K. And we rode it all the way down. I did not close my short position because I understood that with our money flow coming out here, we were probably going to continue the downtrend. And on this lackluster retracement up, money flow is still in the red. Lower highs and lower lows is to come. So when we look at this on our current price action, you know, are we going to see that play out where it's like, all right, we got the big wick, lower high, lower low, or is this just going to be a liquidity sweep before massive new all-time highs? So on the bullish end of things, I will say, obviously, the fact that we wicked through these levels and didn't have to hang out down here is a plus, right? At least as of right now. Number two. Let me actually hide this fib. I'll pull up the major resistance levels that we must get above. We have a lot of liquidity sitting up here towards the highs. So, you know, on this move down, right, as always, you're going to have people FOMO shorting, right? Very likely putting a lot of liquidity above here. So that could help us kind of squeeze to the upside. But if I pull up our key levels of resistance, if we put in a lower high and a lower low, where is that likely to come in at? Well, number one, we have our full golden pocket retracement, which is going to be the next target to the upside. And again, when you just look at this as a volume profile, I mean, it's really crazy, right? Like, I won't even pull up the post in the Discord, but like the idea here was to get this move down to about $112,000 to $111,000 at the value area low. And again, negate that wick. I mean, look what this looks like, right? It's just like, hey, we came down, we started holding the value area low. Hopefully that is just an arbitrary liquidation wick. I really hope so, right? That's what anyone hoping for upside is hoping for. But the key levels of resistance, golden pocket of this entire move down sits between the POC, golden pocket, anchored VWAP from the all-time high here as well, sitting in that zone. And you also have the 786 of a local fib sitting there on top of that, right? So this zone does sit between about 116,928 to 118,391. I'm sorry, 118,311. So if we're looking, right, just like back here, I know, even here, I remember this, right? Everyone's like super excited, like, oh my God, that was the low. We got the liquidity seat. That's the low. We're going up, right? But what did we see, right? We just simply saw the golden pocket, 786 retracement with that money flow coming out together, right? You have to have that stuff happening together. There's your golden pocket 786. There's your big level of resistance that you would have to get above in order to look for new highs, right? You would have to get above this, right? That would invalidate the idea of the local lower high. You could continue up through your profile and potentially continue cooking to the upside. Obviously, money flow pointed in the opposite direction, so you got the lower high and the lower low as you would expect. Now, in this current price action, what does that look like, right? Well, it very simply looks like golden pocket 786, which is pretty much the POC and the value area high of the range. If we're looking for a lower high to come in here, I would anticipate it to either come in here or at that 786. Now, I would say there is a little bit more confluence here on the golden pocket, and the fact that we have so much liquidity sitting up here, maybe I'll pull up the heat maps in a second as well. The fact that we have a lot of liquidity sitting up here, I'd be careful, right? Because when we look at this, I talked about this with the premium Discord earlier. If you pull up the visible range volume profile, you have a pretty big gap here, right? So if we do not reject this golden pocket, right, we can assume we have high volume down here, high volume up here. Pretty big gap in between those. So if we don't get the rejection from this golden pocket, we might be able to get a quick push into the value area high, which would kind of agree with the idea of just simply rotating this volume profile, right? You slip the low. Now we're back above the low. The next target to the upside is the POC. If you can't get the rejection there, which I would definitely pay attention to because of the confluence on that golden pocket and the money flow being in the red for a potential lower high. But just traditionally based off the volume profiles, if you get above that POC, you're looking up towards that value area high. And you have that nice gap in volume here to kind of assist that move. And then all the liquidity that we have sitting up here, I'm going to be careful with the shorts above the value area high. As you guys know, very simply, based off the short position that we took before the big nuke to the downside, and again, before the tweet, right? Not shorting based off the tweet. The money flow was very, our bias here was for the continuation down way before that tweet came in. Sure, the tweet was beneficial for our analysis to continue playing out, but again, that was pointed out by the deviation above the volume profile. This is your overvalued price. This is where you're looking for shorts to get back into the range and fill the range in full. And again, negate that wick. It's like you just go right back down to the low. You're finding support on the low. You could look for that rotation up to the high. So when I look at this, it's like if I want to bust out of here, we need to get up into that POC, get above the POC, and then start cracking above this value area high. Once we start cracking above this value area high, yes, of course, I'm going to be looking at it very similar to back here, where it's like, hey, it could be a deviation. I don't know what money flow is going to look like. I don't know what our entry triggers are going to look like. Maybe we don't get any confirmations up there. But the reason I would be careful here is because of all that liquidity. If we start squeaking up, right, all those shorts can add to that squeeze into new all-time highs, which at that point, right, you'd be looking at this as like, well, hey, that was a liquidity sweep for a massive move up, which in my opinion would be very, very bullish. But the level to break above, just very simply put, even if I'm not measuring it out, right, you got to get above that value area high. And again, you mark that off with the 786 retracement, right? That would be the last level to put in a high, a lower high, and a lower low. That is the last level for that to come in at. So once you flip on top of that, you have liquidity above, and it also is invalidating the idea of that lower high, which I would anticipate new all-time highs at that point. But we have to be very careful around this resistance, right? Because of the idea of filling the wick, because of the money flow, because of the Fibonacci retracements. So there's an argument to be made here, guys, especially with dominance coming out, right? With this has been like pretty spot on. Exactly. I mean, I deleted the lines at this point, I think. I wish I didn't. But our idea here was bullish divergences on dominance. Money flow comes up, right? You could look for that retracement, but we have two major levels of resistance here to put lower highs and lower lows in, right? Because when you look at the 3-day and the 3-day money flow, right, in the red, VWAP coming down. 4-day money flow also looking pretty weak as far as the trend goes. And you can see here on the higher time frames, like we closed this candle below the golden pocket, right, for a high, a low, a potential lower high for another breakdown on dominance. Now, again, we're going to have to let this, we'll have to let this kind of develop over some time. But, nothing is really broken here. And you can see our key level is holding up, right? These levels are not, some people say you can't use fibs, you can't use volume profiles for dominance, but, just continuously, value area low is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. And, until this stops working on the dominance chart, I'm going to keep using it, right? I kind of get the argument of why you wouldn't use volume profiles on something like dominance, but it plays out perfectly, right? It works, right? And I'm not going to stop using it until it stops working. So, this is positive, right? This would be potentially, hey, if you get that bigger breakdown on money flow, on dominance, right? Like this could be very good for the altcoins, but we just have a lot of mixed signals here, right? Especially on Bitcoin, we've been talking a lot about the high time frame bearish divergences. You got the weekly bear div, right? Even just from here to here, higher highs, lower highs. You even have another bearish divergence from these highs to these lower highs, right? Red dot printing on the weekly, no blood diamond just yet, which is nice to see. But you have these high time frame divergences pretty late in the cycle, right? This is not the same thing as seeing the divergences back here. A lot of people brought this up when it was forming up here, saying, Frankie, do you not see the weekly bearish divergence? Do you not see the 2-week bearish divergence? Do you not see the monthly bearish divergence? This is exactly what happened in 2021 before the bear market. Why are you not worried about this? And it just simply had to do with the fact of where we were in the cycle. We didn't have rate cuts, right, which is another positive puzzle piece. You're entering that rate cutting cycle, which could help this stuff, right? It's just like kind of all over the place. There's definitely an argument to be made on both sides. And as a trader, I have to look at both of those sides of the coin and kind of go with what I think is the highest probability, right? So all you can do, no one has a crystal ball. No one knows exactly what's going to happen here. So that's why I love to stick to the charts, right? It's just raw information. And you have to, if you have a ton of bearish puzzle pieces and a couple of bullish puzzle pieces, you're probably going to want to lean on the bearish end of things. But I would say right now, it's kind of like a toss-up, right? And even this monthly candle turning out to be somewhat of a doji, at least thus far. So you have the bearish divergences, you have the weekly red dot, and it's like this late in the cycle, I think it's you're doing yourself a disservice to not at least entertain that bearish scenario. And I know it's not everybody's favorite thing to look at, but you have to keep in mind, right? Like if it is going to be the top, right? It's like no one thought 100K was going to be the top, right? Back here in 2021. And you're going to be really thankful that you at least entertained the bearish case so you were aware of it if it does wind up being the top. So, if it does play out more bullishly, again, 128 to 130K is going to be the next target to the upside and eventually even into the 137 to 155K zone. But to be quite honest, like we got to start getting going here, right? Like we got to get up here and start squeezing and going, right? Like if we see another, as always, guys, we got the fake out of the all-time high here, shorted this in the premium Discord, got the fake out of the all-time high here, shorted that in the premium Discord. It's, again, right? We got another fake out of the all-time highs, shorted this bad boy in the premium Discord as well, and got that nice nuke to the downside. So, if we come back up there, I'm hoping, right, that this is not just going to be another fake out of all-time highs. What I really want to see here is, like, let's get the dang breakout. Let's go. Let's stop faking this out, doing this willy lollygagging, pussyfooting around, and start getting this thing going. And I would want to see a strong move like that, not another fake out of all-time highs. Because, again, shout out to Golden. He actually told us to look at this compared to this price action back here, right? It's like very similar. Kind of resize it, right? Bada boom, stretch it out just a little bit, right? Kind of similar to like kind of these distributions that we see at the highs here, right? It's not going to line up perfectly, but it is definitely something to pay attention to, right? And then like here, you even have that like big liquidity flush, but what happens? Lower high, lower low, continuation down. It's that same kind of situation that we talked about back here, right? Liquidation, lower highs, continuation. Liquidation, lower highs, continuation, where you fill that wick. So it's, I just have to bring this up, guys. I can't just cover just the bullish case. But the nice thing is, if we get going here and we could push up above those all-time highs and see a big breakout, again, just like before we got this drop, if we get into those all-time highs, it's kind of like, whew, thank God. That was getting sketchy, right? So we'll see. I mean, we definitely have resistance here. Like, can't get back above here, could be the lower high. Can't get back above here, could be the lower high. If we get above it, let's get going very quickly. 130, 140, 137K. Hopefully we can see that come in. But there's really no way for me. I'm just kind of sitting here and trying to see what happens at these key levels, right? We got to let the information develop. We need more information here. I wish I could just come up here and say, like, that's it, liquidity sweep. That's it. It's the low. It's just not the case. Definitively. Could be. It's one of those situations where it could go up, could go down. I would say money flow is definitely still pointing towards the continuation down, though. But if we're going to come up and sweep that liquidity, right, it's like money flow might just scan back to the upside. But you're still rooting for massive fake outs on money flow on many, many key time frames here. So we'll see. I'm praying for the move up here, guys. I'm praying for the move up. But I am definitely being very cautious. I am cautiously, very, very cautiously hoping for that. I pray. Key level to break above, $121,000. Hold above that. Let's send it. We do not want something like this, though, right? That would be bearish, right? We need to get up there, hold it as support, and start moving up very aggressively. So I'm going to come back into the chat. I kind of neglected you guys here and jumped right back into the charts here. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to Hunter, says I wouldn't bet on the on a bear market, especially when the crypto fear and greed index is in panic. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that we've been paying attention to up here, which is part of the reason why this is such a difficult call to make, is because, like, again, like even up here, we have not really seen the traditional psychological kind of sentiment that you would see at the top of market. Now, it's not guaranteed that you have to see that, but it's like we didn't have a massive blow off top. We did not have a crazy euphoric sentiment. Not everyone's looking for all-time highs, right? Like back in 2021, I think it's like pretty clear everyone was hoping for 100K and we didn't get it, right? But it was like way more euphoric, right? We just don't have that up here. It's definitely something I would pay attention to. I'll be honest. I think betting in either direction it's got its risks, right? Because it's like anything can happen, guys. Like we could shoot on off into all-time highs. And again, you don't always have to know. I think when it comes to TA, a lot of people are like, can't the chart just tell if it's going up or down? It's not always that easy, right? It's much easier to say that I do not think this is the bear market, right? It's much easier to say I do not think this is the bear market. But when you get to the timing of the cycle like this, it's definitely worth entertaining the idea of being on top watch for some kind of like a longer, right? Like we didn't have the blow off top in 2021. We had the blow off top in 2017, right? Very, very clear, massive blow off top. Very, very clear, massive blow off top. 2021, it was more of just like an elongated distribution phase, which could be more what we see now going in to the future cycles with Bitcoin having the big money involved. It could be one of those situations, right, where like you don't have to see that blow off top. We did not really see it happen in 2021. It was more of this like elongated kind of range correction situation before the bigger breakdown. So these are my long-term thoughts, right? We're hoping that it was just nothing more than a massive liquidity sweep, and that's the bottom. I don't think it's as simple as just calling that to be the case when money flow is pointing the way it is. I would be much more comfortable saying, hey, let's send it to new all-time highs once we get above that 786 decisively. And when we start taking a look at Ethereum, guys, it gets really, really interesting because what have we been looking at on Ethereum forever, right? We've been looking as we flip that 786, that macro 786 to support that we have been rejected from many a times very aggressively, right? This is the macro 786 pulled from the 2021 high all the way to the low. This is your doorway to new all-time highs. We got rejected, we got rejected, we got rejected, and then more recently, we got that big rip to the upside. We got above it, we tested it, we then broke down below. Once we lost this level, what was the next level of support we were looking at? Very simply put, looking down towards that value area high at 35.30. Where did we wick down to on that big liquidation? Right into this key level, macro value area high, anchored VWAP. And I covered this on the higher time frames for Bitcoin. It's the very similar situation that we've seen when we broke the macro 786 on Bitcoin, right? This is your doorway to new all-time highs, massive new all-time highs, right? You get to that level, you break above it, you hold it, you slip it, retest the value area high of that macro 2021 range, and then you eventually reclaim for the mass move up into new all-time highs. It's the same thing on Ethereum, and we have now seen, right, finally, as we drew this line 100 times, maybe you test it, maybe you test it, maybe you test it, maybe you go down to retest that value area high. As long as we hold that level, you could see that reclaim and the bigger move up. And we've now seen that happen. I do not, just like on Bitcoin, right, I do not want to get accepted back into this range, right? I do not want to come back down, fill this wick, and hang out down here, right? This is okay, right? This is honestly what you would want to see. A nice range high retest of that value area high pulled from the 2021 bull market. It is the exact same range, the exact same fib as on Bitcoin, right? And then like obviously Bitcoin broke through the first time and wound up going, right? Bitcoin got above, tested, reclaimed, sent it, where Ethereum went the opposite direction. So, you have that going for you. This is, kind of what we've been expecting. Not kind of. This is exactly what we've been expecting if we lost that 786, looking for that tap of the value area high. It just happened very, very fast. So I'll get a little deeper into this. I'm going to come back in the chat in just 2 seconds. I want to see what your guys' thoughts are. But yeah, I mean, this is the biggest level of resistance. If you're just looking at a clean chart, you don't want to mark off every single intermediary level. This will be the zone to get above between, at the end of this zone at about $121,105. This is the level to break out of in order to get the move up. If we get the rejection from in here, guys, it is definitely going to be a potential scenario where we go back down and fill that wick, which is going to be a much nastier situation. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with that. Hopefully, we can just scan back up inside the volume profile. Locally, you could just pay attention to the volume profile. Deviate below the low, ignoring the wick, right? Deviate below the low, back into your range. POC is next. That's the start of the bigger retracement. And then that value area high is that kind of last level. You need to squeeze out here aggressively, in my opinion. So, we'll cover this price action as it develops. But let me come back on into the chat in right now. All right, let's see. Yeah, shout out to Sosa Fly says, if Ethereum fills that wick, it's going down to the low 2Ks. Yeah, I would not want to really fill this wick at this time, right? Or this is Bitcoin, but kind of the same thing on Ethereum, right? Like, I do not want to fill this wick. Get it? And again, just from a volume profile perspective, right? Like, let's just look at this from a clean perspective, right? Hide the fib, hide the anchored VWAP, and we could even hide this range. I'll just hide all of this, right? Bada boom. Hide it, right? I'll even hide this macro 786. Anytime you deviate above these levels, you do not want to get accepted back into these ranges. They typically fill in full. Back up, deviation, back in, fill the wick in full. Or not fill the wick, but fill the volume profile in full. You did fill this wick, right? Big old wick, little bounce back up, fill the wick, right? But this could be, right? If we get accepted back in there, right? What is that starting to look like, right? Well, it's starting to look like a deviation above the high, acceptance back into your range where you could potentially start targeting 2K, right? Or $2,300 at the POC, and then potentially the value area low at about $2,000, right? So I would agree with you there. Definitely don't want to fill this wick and get accepted into the profile. Of course, can you see this? Something where you get the push down, sweep the wick, hold the support, and then get the move up. Yes, but you're definitely dancing with danger there, right? Because it's like if you don't get the quick rip and you get accepted in here, it does open the door for that massive move to the downside. Let me just pull up all those levels because they are important. I just wanted to clean up the chart to make it nice and simple for you guys. But right now, locally on Ethereum, attempting to get back above this value area low. We are currently rejecting the POC, but the key levels on Ethereum here as far as the Fibonacci retracements go, pulled from the high to the low. Golden pocket, this is the first zone to potentially put in the lower high before continuing down. If you can get above this POC, 786 comes in at about 44.75. If we get above this, we have a lot of liquidity sitting up here, right? So we get above that 786. I'm definitely expecting the value area high and potentially a squeeze higher. And when we pull our full retracement, this is the retracement of this entire move. But if we pull it all the way from the highs here, the all-time high at about 49.55, whoops, that 786 is very similar to Bitcoin, right on that value area high. So it's like the same thing for Ethereum, right? Like once you start getting through here, and even if I took off these local levels and we just looked at the full Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low here, right? Golden pocket sitting in that very similar zone. Get above that. You could look to squeeze out that liquidity into the 786, and then this is the level to get above in order to push into new all-time highs. This is the last level that I would be looking at for a lower high to continue the overall trend to the downside. Once you get above that, it's like, great. Well, this is huge resistance, but the plus side of that is if you flip it, there's nothing really above you holding you back from pushing into new all-time highs. But we have a lot of work to do here. We have resistance above. We got the money flow, right? We'll take a look at money flow here on Ethereum as well. Take a look at the 16-hour in the red. Take a look at the daily in the red. You have the green dot printing right now. But again, after these big liquidation sweeps, it's not uncommon to see like these fast rebounds, right? Very similar to what I just looked at on Bitcoin with you guys from back here, right? Like massive liquidity sweep, massive push up, but it does not negate the money flow. So when it comes to Ethereum, right, it's like you got to get back outside of this profile. Until then, it's like, well, hey, you know, you might be getting accepted into this profile, right? POC is next. I'll even just hide this to make it nice and simple, right? Go from the value area low. POC is next. If we can hold inside of this range, value area low comes in at about 41.89. If we can hold above here and get above the POC, well, then maybe we can start chugging through the rest of the profile. But it's not until we break this level at about 46.58 where I would be entertaining the idea of new all-time highs. So again, like the hope here is liquidity sweep, send it back up. because I think it is important to understand the difference between these liquidity sweeps and like just natural selling pressure. This massive wick down, guys, was based off liquidations, right? This is not just people giving up on crypto. It's, people panic selling, right? But, as price pushes down, you start to wreck all those long positions, which is why price doesn't really stick down there. So that's what we're looking at. Let me come back into chat. I keep reading like one chat and then going back in. All right, let's see. Shout out to Altcoin Corey, also known as Daddy Zach. Welcome in, brother. He says, everyone seems to think either bear market already started or one more pump to all-time highs. Is it possible that this cycle extends a while longer, i.e. a year, than all-time high? Shout out to Daddy Zach. It is... you can entertain it, right? I am never one of those people that falls into the camp that this time is going to be super, super different than the previous, right? I am in the camp of every cycle kind of has its own quirks. Every cycle kind of has its own, quirks, right? Like they all kind of have their own thing, right? We made a new all-time high before the halving here in this cycle, so it's already a little bit different, right? The macroeconomic environment is a little bit different. So, could it extend? Sure, right? I know a lot of people are expecting like even alt season to potentially get delayed until there's a new Fed chair, right? That would make sense to me, but I don't know if that is like I'm not necessarily looking at that as like, don't worry, guys, like bear market's not here, it's just gonna go longer, right? Well, like where I think a lot of people are just like ingrained to think that it can't. We can't go down, right? Well, why? Because we didn't see the blow off top, right? Well, we didn't see altcoin season, and yes, I would agree with a part of that, right? But it also doesn't mean you're guaranteed to see that. And I've been humbled enough in these markets over the years, over the cycles that I've been here since 2017 or 2016 technically, that like you don't always need to see what you think is going to play out, right? As a matter of fact, more often than not, it's not going to play out the way you think, which is why I like to have the bearish case, the bullish case. And even if I'm leaning, even if I was sitting up here saying, guys, like, I don't care, I'm still bullish, and I was really heavily leaning bullish, that doesn't mean that I don't want to keep my eyes on the bearish case in case I'm wrong. You have to understand that there are times where you're going to be wrong in the market, and it's going to happen, somewhat often. If you're using good TA, you'll be right more than you're wrong, obviously. But you always have to entertain, like, for the effery in the market, right? Like sometimes the market just does crazy stuff. And I know a lot of people are asking me to compare it to the C19 dump, and there are similarities, right? And I'll show you those similarities right now. When we were here back in 2019, right, or 2019, 2020, right, we had the Golden Pocket 786 retracement down here at about $5,400. And yes, we got the wick, the panic wick down here, probably a bunch of liquidations as well. But what happens? Eventually, you do close that weekly candle above the 786. When in the long term, right, it kind of just looks like a 786 retracement before a massive move up. And I think a lot of people are looking at it through this lens. But to look at it through this lens, anticipating like essentially a massive rip to the upside in a large example of one, this was a completely different point in the market, right? Completely different point, right? We were not coming up to what we would think is the end of the cycle. This was early. This was way earlier. This is like a black swan event happening like over here, right? We are way further along than that. So it's not that it can't play out like that. It's just like it's a totally different situation. You can't just compare everything one to one. And I would say there are similarities, right? Because if you look at this big liquidation wick, even on the Bybit chart, or I have to look at the Bybit chart, right? What is this key level that we looked at last week, right? If we lose this, guys, we're probably going down to the value area high. That was the 786 sitting here at about 111,210, right? And when you look at this from a high time frame perspective, I mean, even like on a daily perspective, it's like you get that big wick and you're like almost closing right above that 786 again. So it is comparable, I guess. But from a cycle perspective, right, like back here, we were literally like still kind of in the bear market, right? It's like we were kind of still like wiggling around at the bottom, right? We got the like fake out bull market, right? And then, you're still essentially kind of in that bear market value, right? Where you're just kind of like bing-bonging around down here before the massive rip to the upside. Is there a reason to expect some kind of massive parabolic move like this? I would say if you're looking at it through that lens, just understand you're way deeper in the cycle at this point. It's just a completely different situation. And if it were to bring us into new all-time highs, I would still be anticipating it probably to bring us up to, personally, my next bull market targets, which are obviously sitting up here between about 137 and 155K. This is much different than seeing like, if I were to pull this as a bars pattern, right? There's your wick low on C19. There's your all-time high. Like, if you're looking at it through this lens, right, and obviously you'd have to kind of resize this pretty drastically. But if you're looking at it through that lens where it's like the bull market is just starting, I mean, could that happen? Maybe. Like, push up to 300 and 400K? Like, not my base case. And why is that, right? Well, we had the whole bull market to go, right? At this point, we're, like, hanging out more in, like, this situation up here, right? So if this big liquidation wick had happened like down here, maybe that's where I would anticipate that massive move up. But I do still think, like, even if we get the big move into new all-time highs, you know, I'm not looking, at least as of right now, much higher than between 137 and 155K, which is really only, you know, 33% from where we are right now. It's not like a massive, you know, 1,100% gain. So the timing is different. This, you know, you have to understand that. So, I mean, even if it is that bullish scenario where we see the liquidity sweep and we can continue up, I'm still not necessarily anticipating this to be the start of the market, right? Like the start of the bull market. Sure, maybe the altcoins can, you know, potentially put in a top, right? Liquidity starts flooding into altcoins, they start popping. But as far as Bitcoin, right, it's like this is kind of like top watch area, in my opinion. And then if we get up there, if it looks super bullish, we can look up towards 200K maybe, right? That would be like really the only other place to look, in my opinion, other than local targets that we'll have up here. We get above this Fibonacci extension zone, right? Like the next target is up here at $209,000. So I don't want to say it's impossible, but I also don't want to sit up here and be like, don't worry, guys. Like, it's all good. Like, we're definitely going up to 200K. You got to look at both sides of the coin here. And yeah, I mean, we'll look back, right? Let's just say the top does come in. It's like, I don't know how many other people are looking at it through this lens, right? I'm sure a lot of people are just thinking, liquidity sweep sent it up to new all-time highs, which, by the way, guys, I am rooting for. I am 100% rooting for that. But you can't just ignore the bearish case. And it's very important to understand that. It's how you wind up round-tripping your bags. I know a lot of people don't want to do that. Or nobody should want to do that, unless that's part of your plan, right? I'm just going to buy low and just hold forever. Buy low, hold. Buy low, hold, and just never sell. That's a different scenario. But I know a lot of people have been looking at that 2019 or 2020 COVID wick. Different part of the cycle here. Doesn't mean you can't get another scam to the upside, right, to sweep out the liquidity and get a new all-time high. But I would not anticipate it to be like the start of the bull market like it was back here. So there you go. You know, hopefully it is, but that's not what I'd be anticipating. All right, let me see here. Daddy Zach said, hit the likes, homies. Shout out to Daddy Zach. Smash that like button if you appreciate the free content here, guys. We're going for 100K likes. If we get 100K likes. 100K likes. No, if we get 100,000 subscribers, guys, when we hit 100K subscribers, I want to do some cool stuff. We'll probably do a big giveaway. Monetarily, we'll give away a bunch of money. But I'm thinking maybe we'll like find a CandleMafia member and I don't know, like gift them a trading PC. Not that you need a crazy PC to trade, but it'd be cool to give you like a Frankie Candles branded PC or something. That'd be super fire. And then maybe like fund an account with a couple $1,000s or a few $1,000s for them to start trading. I think that'd be kind of cool. So run it up. If you're not subscribed, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the beautiful TA. And hey, last week, guys, I mean, we get it right way more than we get it wrong here. You know, short before the drop. Right. Not because I'm a wizard, just because of the TA that we do here every single day. Is it possible for that wick not to be filled by at least half? I couldn't find an example. Shout out to Siavish. I don't know how to say your name. I apologize. But, I mean, here's the other thing, too. When it comes to, you know, we covered the key levels of resistance. So I can cover some of the local levels of support as well, right? So, like, obviously the big levels are up here to the upside. If we get another move down, right, like, I know this wick is, like, on at a different place or a different price on every exchange. Is it possible to, I don't know if you're asking, is it possible to, like, fill half of the wick and then continue up? I mean, in a case of that, right, well, what would I be looking at here? Very simply, I would be saying, hey, if I get another drop down and this wick is not going to fill in full, where would I really want to hold up? I would very likely want to hold on top of this value area high. Do we have any confluence there? Well, if we pull our wick from the low, or our fib from the low, all the way to the current high that we have right now, you can see our golden pocket is, funny enough, sitting right where I drew that line. Very close to that value area high. So if we don't fill that entire wick, right, it is possible to potentially come down here. And, you know, I don't want to draw out every single possibility, right? Like, obviously, one of these is going to play out. But, you know, if you come back down for one more test of that value area high, that would be very sketchy, but also valid, in my opinion, because of the confluence that you have on your golden pocket here, right? So that would be a situation where maybe you fill half of the wick or a little more than half of the wick. But even this 786 now, it's like if you get the bounce there, you really need the aggressive push up, because if you get stuck inside this volume profile, you might just go down and fill that wick anyway, right, in full, which, again, this would be the much more bearish case for Bitcoin, right? We just want to stay out of this volume profile, guys. It's simple volume profile theory, right? Like, I know it gets kind of confusing to look at all these levels all at one time, but like when you just look at this as a area of value and area of value, value up here, value down here. We want to stay inside this value and above, right? If we break back down into this value, that is much more bearish, unless you get some kind of quick rip up from that Fibonacci retracement. You get stuck inside this volume profile, guys. It's like that's what makes it bearish, right? I'd be looking for the full fill. And in my opinion, this is probably more of a bear market situation. So again, just like last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before, do not want to get accepted in here, which is why I'm not like super freaked by this wick just yet, because that's okay. The wick is okay. It's the closures down here that we don't want to see. So I pray that we don't have to deal with that. But yeah, there is a possibility where you could fill half that wick, hold on top of that value area high fib zone, and potentially continue marching up, right? So, I mean, this is a difficult part of the market, guys. I think I've mentioned this before in the past. It's like, wait until we get up to where we would expect the highs to be, and we start trying to figure out what's going to happen, because like even the bullish cases get very sketchy, because it's like, yeah, sure, 786 bounce it back up, but if money flow is coming out and we're at that point in the cycle where you'd expect a high to come in, right, you have to be aware of those bearish scenarios, and it just gets very, very difficult to navigate. So I was telling the premium Discord earlier today, I'm going to be very picky with my positions here. So we'll see what happens. Oh, shout out to Mohammed, said discount on premium maybe when we hit 100K. Maybe that's what you're thinking. We'll have some really, really nice discounts going on for the premium during Black Friday. That'll be coming up very soon, so look forward to that. All right, let's see. Let's see. Chicken shawarma. Shout out to Vegas Claw. I don't even know what that's in reference to. Just thinking of upgrading the PC. Shout out to David. Hey, if you get us up to 100K, hey, get us to 100K subscribers, and maybe you get a free one from Frankie Candles. Not built by Frankie Candles. Probably built by Tony D. You don't want me building your PC. I'd be putting like beans in that thing. Yeah, crazy. The fear and greed index never hit extreme fear, and we're already back to neutral. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how quickly things can change here, guys. It's like you never want to sell on the panic dumps, and it's just not gonna pretend that's never happened to me, guys. It's never a good scenario. All right, let's see. Shout out to Mr. 100. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. He says AVAX has let me down severely. Shout out to Mr. 100. All right, so let's get into some of the altcoins. We covered Ethereum. I think I've gone over Bitcoin as much as I possibly can. Just watch these big key levels of resistance above, guys. Break above that 786. That's the level you need to get above. Until then, we got to be careful of the lower highs and the lower lows to come to potentially fill that wick. And again, we have the local support down here on the value area high. If you just tuned in, just scroll back to the beginning of the stream. I give all the sauce here on Bitcoin. But let's cover some of these altcoins, guys. I'm going to kind of go over these like kind of briefly, not briefly, but like a little bit more like top-down view. So I'll just start off here, taking a look at Solana. Whoops, come on over to the alt chart here. Bada boom, bada bing. Actually, should I talk about this little fractal that we had in the premium? I was looking at this little fractal here, right? And this is actually the same fractal that I just pulled before. But it did point towards that bigger correction to the downside, which hopefully just happened very quickly. We don't have to continue to endure that continued drawdown, but just like sweep the highs, massive drop down. This kind of like condensed itself into like a 1 second kind of candle to the downside. But I'll just leave that there. I'm not going to go over that too much. I don't really put a lot of weight on the fractals either way. But let's take a look at Solana here. Same thing on Solana here, guys. It's like same thing as that like C19 wick that I was talking about. It's like you get the wick down, but what is the key level here on Solana that we've been looking at on every single live stream? It's like, hey, if we can't hold this value area, we're going to be looking down towards the daily MPOC and this daily and the anchored VWAP sitting right down here between about 183.41, 176.53. I did not just draw these levels. These levels have been on the chart for quite some time. As a matter of fact, ever since we put this high in. Right, so ever since we were up here, we were looking at this as a key level. Anchored VWAP was in beautiful confluence here. And again, if you kind of just negate this wick, right? I'm not saying it's important to like, I don't want anyone to just think you could just like completely ignore these wicks. But at the end of the day, like if you just ignore that crazy panic wick, which again was caused by the liquidations, what does this look like, right? Like you just ignore that wick and it's like, well, hey, you know, we have the, holding support on that key level, right? With the quick wick down and then the closures above. Especially on the higher time frames, right? It's like we held these levels technically. Like the wicks are not as important when it comes to the liquidations. This is not, you know, it still represents price action, but again, this is just people getting wrecked. This is not people like giving up on crypto. So when you look at it from like that aspect, it's like, well, hey, our key level held up perfectly, right? So again, very similar to C19, where it's like, yeah, sure, if you were looking at this 786 Fibonacci retracement, you know, you're hoping that you wouldn't have lost it. But on a high enough time frame, right, you pull up a weekly, it's like, well, hey, it was just a wick, and then you close above. It's very similar here on a lot of these, on pretty much everything. The 786 was the key level that we looked at on everything, right? Lose the 786 on Solana, we're looking down to the lower levels. We had some daily MPOCs down here. On Ethereum, we were looking down towards the 3530, right, where we had our blue box, daily MPOC, previous value area high, etc., right? Lose that 786, we're probably looking down here. But it's just happened so quickly that it's like these levels are almost holding, right? Because when you look at it without the wick, it's like, all right, well, we got a deviation below the low into the daily 786, and now we're back into the range. We flipped the value area low to support. Well, hey, maybe we can continue up through the profile. So I think it helps sometimes by just understanding like what these wicks actually are. And like if I were not looking at this wick, and sure, there's an opportunity to come fill that wick. So it is important to understand that's there. But just to kind of show that wick and then like the high time frame candle closures above here, it's like, hey, like maybe this level is holding. So at this point, right, we technically held the 786. We're back inside the range. You can see we got back above, flipped it to support, and we're now pushing up through that profile. Your key level of resistance here on Solana, in my opinion, you have your local Fibonacci retracement into your POC of the range, golden pocket, 786 POC, 202.63 up to 219.07. This would be the first area to look for a potential lower high before coming back down to fill that wick, right? Biggest level of resistance. Get above that 786. I'm probably looking for a simple volume profile rotation into the value area high, which still sits up here at about 250, 249.12 at the value area high to be specific. If we pull our full wick, or I'm sorry, our full Fibonacci retracement, I'll just pull it to this high here, right? It doesn't really change the levels too much, right? Because if I get above that PLC, I'm looking to push into the value area high. Sure, you have the bigger 786, but at that point, right, we might be able to just, I'll probably just be looking at this as a value area high. But at the end of the day, this 786 is really the last level you have to get above. 230.43, that would be the last level to get above in order to anticipate the value area high coming back in. So if I had to draw this out together, I'd be saying, right, and then this golden pocket is just already confluent with this zone, so I'll take it out. Right, these are the levels to look at on Solana. 202.63 to 219.07. If you don't get the lower high here, the last place to look for it is right here on that 786. I think personally, if we get above the POC, we can cook to the value area high. That's my personal thought, right? But at the end of the day, right, you can't be surprised if you bounce on the POC, reject that 786 for another massive drop down. So really the level is sitting at 230.10. But again, once you're above that POC, it could just be turbulence, flip the POC, go to the value area high. It depends on what price action looks like when we get up there. But those are the biggest levels of resistance to look at on Solana. Once we get above that 786, well, hey, we can cook to the value area high. Once we get above those key levels up there, we can start talking about new all-time highs. But we're just simply within the profile. And again, if you negate that wick, it's like, hey, we've had the rotation from the low to the POC to the high, from the high to the POC to the low, from the low to the POC, not all the way to the high. We got the little rejection here. Again, the move from the value area low to the POC is high probability, and more often than not, you are going to look for that value area high fill, but it's not 100%. It's not going to happen every single time. But at that point, right, it's like, technically, we're back above that low. So you can just keep in mind you are within this volume profile with the honorable mentions of these key resistance levels. And the only reason I'm paying attention to these levels for potential lower highs and lower lows is only because we have the money flow coming to the downside. 12-hour money flow crossover into the red. 16-hour money flow crossover into the red. Daily money flow coming out pretty aggressively. This indicates a potential continuation of the downtrend, and money flow has been pretty choppy. So, you know, I would say if we get above here and we just start cooking to the upside, I can't call if this is going to be a high probability of a fake out. But if you're going to go into new all-time highs and just scam up from here, you would have to be praying for those money flow fake outs. I would still say that, you know, 4-hour money flow is still in the red, right? Again, your 12 and 16 hour are still in the red. So I have to entertain the idea of potential lower highs coming in on these zones. So that's what I would look at on Solana. I'm just going to move down the list here. We'll take a look at Cardano, which is wild. Again, ignoring the liquidation wick here. Or no, let's not ignore the liquidation wick first. What do we look at here? We had our, golden pocket 786 retracement, right, which was pulled to this wick high, right? Lose this 786. We look down to the value area low. Once we lost 50 cents, which is funny because I always felt weird like talking about this because I personally was not anticipating this to happen sooner than later. My thought process here was like, hey, if we break this 786, we're looking down towards the value area high. And then once we start losing these lows, you have to look to fill this profile in full. And again, we got it, right? But it happened so quickly that now look, we're holding this 786 again. So if you negate this wick, it's like, well, hey, we're technically holding key support. You have your low, your high, your potential higher low on the 786 with this crazy liquidation wick. You're technically holding on top of this level, again, compared to the C19 event that we had where you kind of get the panic wick, but you really just hold that as a 786 retracement. So it's pretty wild, right? Even like the break of the value area high to see the full fill, even on these crazy liquidation wicks, what happens? You fill the wick, you fill the range in full, and then you snap right back up. So it's kind of hard for me to say like, oh, this is bullish, we're holding the 786. Because again, if you put in the lower highs and the lower lows and you fill that wick, much more bearish. I would have said, hey, if you lose this value area high, if we lose this 786, get stuck onto this value area high and we start pushing down, right? That's kind of bear market situation for me because you lose that value area high, you're going to fill this entire range, which is literally your bear market range. Like that's bear market, right? But it all happened so fast. It's like bear market. All right, we're just back to where we were and back holding that key level that we wanted to hold. So you kind of see how this is like a very difficult situation. Like we can't just ignore this wick completely. But if you were, it's like, well, we're holding the 786. Is this just going to be low, high, higher, low for an eventual higher high? It's very difficult, right? And that's why we just have to play this minute to minute, right? Not minute to minute, but like we have to play this level to level and like let the information develop. But I would say the key levels of resistance on Cardano sitting between 73 and 86 cents. That would be the last place to look for the lower high locally here to continue down to fill that wick. Obviously, the value area high can potentially act as support, 54 cents. But I would still say this all stands true. If we come back down here and we start losing this value area high, not only do we have the potential fill the volume profile, but you're also just looking to fill that wick. So, but right now it's like, are we at risk of that? Maybe if we fill the wick, but we're back above holding this level. So like very difficult. So this is still your key level, even though we absolutely smashed through it. It's like, I would still say holding this 786 is important because if we lose it, just looking for an elongated fill of that wick, which would be very bearish in my opinion. Again, losing 50 cents is very bearish. So I'll actually just mark this off as a general level from the value area high down to these lows. All right, you do not want to lose this zone for Cardano. It's like it's so difficult, right? It's like, well, we did lose it, and it was very bad, but it was like 2 seconds. So, but this is the next key level, right? 86 to 73 cents, and then even if you get into above that 786, like you're still fighting all this resistance, right? So, like I wouldn't even say this is a huge level. It'd just be nice because you're not going to get the local lower high. But after that, right, you still got to get above your value area low, and then at the end of the day, you have the 786 up here sitting at $1.10 to get above, and then you have the PLC. You just have a lot of work to do here to get back up. I would not be writing home, honestly, at this point on Cardano until you get back into the range. And honestly, like I would say back above the 786 because this is your full 786 from the high to the low. It's like, hey, break the highs, let's go. But at that point, right, you have the PLC right above you. So I would really say, like the next big level to look to break to the upside to have conviction in a bigger move up is flipping that POC 786. Then you can start looking to higher prices. Until then, you got local resistance, you got more resistance, you got more resistance. So you see like all these levels you got to get above for Cardano. But right now, technically you're holding the 786, tapping into resistance. We'll see if we could either push through this or get the rejection. But we're just going to have to let things kind of settle out here. Daily money flow crossover into the red. Again, that's why I'm being aware of these potential lower highs and lower lows, just because of the money flow continuing into the red. This indicates the overall trend. It's literally how we predicted the drop down here for Bitcoin, right? And again, I wasn't expecting that massive drop down on the wick, but even just looking at the spot chart, my thought process here was just based off the volume profile. Deviation above the high, 4-hour money flow crosses into the red, daily money flow is coming out, look for the rotation down to that value area low, and we're holding that. And again, there's no wick here on the Bitstamp chart, obviously. So it's like, can we ignore that wick? I hope so. I'm definitely not going to ignore it, but at the end of the day, like hopefully that was just like a nonsensical liquidation wick, and this was just a rotation from the high to the low, right? Or above the high, back into the range, back to the low to hold it, and then eventually get the bigger breakout. The nail biting continues, guys. The nail biting continues. But that's what I'll be looking at as far as Cardano goes. Green dot printing, but again, money flow. Still got to be careful here. If I wanted this to be a massive move to the upside, I would literally need the opposite on Market Cypher. I would need a big red wave crossing into the green. This is not what we have. We have the opposite. This is freshly crossing into the red. If you want this thing to just scam up to new all-time highs, you are hoping for a massive fake out on money flow, which can happen. It's just never what I am looking at as a base case. So there you go. That's what I would look at on Cardano. Let's see. Shout out to Nirvana. Said, every time I walk in a room with red candles, I'm crawling up like a fetus. Shout out to Nirvana. All right, so that's Cardano. We took a look at Ethereum. Let's take a quick look at XRP if we have to. Oh, man. Oh, God. It hurts, guys. It hurts. All right, so I actually want to update these levels with you guys a little bit on XRP. So obviously, guys, XRP's thought process was obviously this was our key level of support. We have the golden pocket, the anchored VWAP, the value area high. And shout out to anybody who watches this channel. I mean, it was for good reason. We had this kind of like a descending triangle formation, right? And I think somebody was even like, isn't that really a bull flag? And I kind of explained that like a bull flag is more something where you see this. And again, not that I trade bull flags or, you know, patterns alone. But, you know, when you get the bull flags, right, like they're more of like a descending channel, right? With the descending triangles, what you have is a flat level of support with lower highs continuously forming. Right, so you have a flat level with the continuous lower highs. That indicates much more of a continuation to the downside. And again, not a huge part of my analysis, but I just bring that up because I think it's easy to kind of explain price action through these patterns with people, right? Flat level of support, trending down, very clear, descending triangle or bearish pattern. Now, once we lost this level, right, we were looking down to our next key level, which was sitting down here at the POC, right? Because you lose that value area high, you're going to be looking down towards the point of control of the range. This is our full Fibonacci retracement from this low down at $1.60 all the way to the high. Lose the value area high, next likely place for price to go is the POC. And again, negating this wick, where is price sitting? Right? If we did not have this big liquidation, we would have gotten the drop right into that POC. Now, this is a little bit ugly, in my opinion. And I'm going to go over the local levels as well. But you could just see, when we have these massive levels of support, and again, we talked about the more times you tap on the door, the more likely it is to open. But unfortunately, the doorway here was the floor. So we're within this profile, value area high 272, POC at 240, and then the value area low here at 204, which is also the 786 Fibonacci retracement. Yeah. So it's like, negate the wick. Hey, we're just got the drop below the value area high into the POC. This is a golden pocket retracement. Could this potentially be a bounce for much higher prices? You know, maybe. But now we got to fight through all this, right? So now we have this range up here that we can look at. Are we just going to come in and fight all this resistance, right? Are we just going to come up for a bearish retest on the bottom of this range before a much bigger drop down to potentially fill the wick? This is something I would be aware of. And when I pull up the actual local levels, right, I'm now going to extend this over, right? I'm going to extend this volume profile over to current price action before the breakdown, right? So I'm going to update this. Value area low now sits down here. Your POC now sits right here. And your value area high is now sitting right here, right? So we now have this nice clean range. And let me actually tidy this up a bit. Value area low. POC. Value area high, right? So now we have this range. And get rid of this, get rid of this. I'll just hide this. I'll hide this. Get rid of these licks. Bada boom. So yeah, now the question is, right, where's our key resistance, right? Well, if we get a massive bounce to the upside, what are we looking to break here? Well, let's just pull our full fib from the high. Jesus, all the way to the low. Let's pull it up on the golden pocket. Actually, pull this entry zone, right? So if your golden pocket value area low confluence here, definitely going to be a key level to watch because, again, is this going to be, right, with money flow coming out, 2-day money flow crossing into the red, 3-day money flow coming out, 4-day money flow in the red, 5-day money flow crossing into the red, 6-day money flow, somewhat coming out here, nothing really to write home about, and then your weekly money flow also coming out as well. If we get the retracements, how high can we see this go? Well, we have a lot of work to do at this point, right? We have the value area low golden pocket, very, very key zone, right? Because this is going to be resistance until proven otherwise, and because it's a golden pocket, it can be an area to put in a lower high before continuing down. If we get above that, that 786 is probably going to be the next big target to look at, in my opinion, which sits somewhat in confluence with the value area high, right? So we have confluence on the value area low, confluence on the value area high. And if you're looking for major rejections, this would be the first place to look. If we get back into the volume profile, I would look up towards the POC. If we flip the POC, we can come back up here. This is the last level, right? Once you get above here, we could look for new all-time highs. But you could see there is a ton of work to be done here, right? We've now lost this range. This is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. So got to be very careful. A lot of work to do here. Right? This is tested, 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 tested. Support, 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 support. Now this could be turning into resistance, right? So this is the chart that I would look at for XRP. If we can get the continuation up, and let me just extend this back just a little bit, see if this changes the levels significantly. Not really. They're pretty much the same levels. So this is sitting between 273 to 283. So if we can get a continuation up here, this would be the next big level to watch. If we can get above there and flip it to support, maybe we could see a bigger continuation up. But it's not really until we get the breakout of that range where I'd be getting excited, because this is still, you know, let me pull a local fib as well. Let's just pull it from the most recent swing high to the low. It's crazy that I have to zoom out this much to catch that wick. Kind of sad, to be honest. So yeah, your 786 comes in there as well. So I would actually extend this down to 270 to 283. That's your first major level of resistance. If you can get above there and stay inside the profile, we can look to cook up here. But again, you have that macro 786 and value area high just above you as well. Anchored VWAP from the all-time high is currently confluent with the POC. I don't know where this is going to be if we wind up getting back up here. But this would be a significant level to look at as well. I would definitely keep this anchored VWAP on the chart. Because if it winds up becoming confluent with some of those levels, well, then you can look at that as somewhat key if you have more than just the anchored VWAP in there. You know, if we were at this level right now, I'd say, hey, this is key because you have the anchored VWAP POC. If we get back inside this profile and this anchored VWAP is kind of chilling right here, you know, it's definitely a level you want to pay attention to, but there's no confluence, right? But yeah, this is what I'd be looking at. Biggest level to get above, 270 to 283 before you look for a bigger continuation up. But then again, you know, you also have all this resistance that we can continue to look for. But we'll see. We'll cross this bridge. we'll talk about that when we get there. Well, you know, we'll cross that bridge. And again, today, I believe, is a bank holiday, too. So tomorrow, we'll may be able to see some volatility on New York Open as well, right? Because, like, you might just have, like, the low volume because of the holiday. What is it? Is it Columbus Day? I think it's Columbus Day. I don't even know, guys. I don't even know. I just know charts. What the holiday is today? Columbus Day. I knew it, guys. I knew it. I'm just kidding. But anyway. That's what I'll be looking at on XRP. Again, money flow just kind of 2-day money flow back in the red. Again, this is, again, choppy. You're in the red. You're in the green. You're in the red. You're in the green. Very hard to take anything away from that. But we'll see what happens here. And then, again, if you want to look at the bigger range here, obviously that brings you down to the value area low at 204, right? So if we do wind up coming back up here, we catch that resistance because we pull that same resistance. Whoops. Right, 786 right on this value area high as well. I think this is clear, right? Like if you were just looking at this from like a structure perspective, it's like support, 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 lose it. This is going to be a big level to get above, right? So if you want to look at it from this perspective, value area high, 786 confluence, right? If we just get accepted into this range, right, we can't get out, right? Just goes to show how key that zone is to get above. If you can't get out of there, right, well, probably going back down towards the POC. If you lose the POC, you can look down to the value area low, sitting at about 205. So that's what I'd be looking at on XRP. We'll see if we can get up here. Again, you know, pretty much the same zones, just looked at from different perspectives, right? If I look at it from the bigger perspective, right, well, this is the value area high. It's a 786. Well, it's also your value area low, right? So you could just look at this all together, right? Get up in here, can't get accepted into the range, potential lower high for the lower low to come. So that's what I would look at on XRP. All the key levels and all the sauce. Let's see. Shout out to All Is the End. As long as another YouTuber doesn't call for alt season, I think we'll be good. Shout out to All Is the End. Hopefully it is not the end. But yeah, hopefully. Stop calling for alt season, guys. They know. They're watching us. Top G wants to see whiff. Yeah, we can take a quick look at whiff. Let's jump in here. So yeah, whiff. We're going to be looking back at this wick forever, guys. Like, this is insane. All right, so let's see here. So on whiff, and again, you just look at this from a volume profile perspective. So we got the drop here. Well, let's get rid of these local levels real quick. Key level, right? Regardless of if we get that liquidation wick or not. And again, this did happen very quickly because we had the liquidation. But once you lose this value area high, you are looking to go to the POC and the value area low. And again, if you ignore this wick, I know this went way, 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 way lower. But when you look at where these candles, like those liquidations happen and price kind of settles, where does it settle? Right on that value area low. Right? So even on these big liquidation wicks, if you can get closures back inside these volume profiles, it's like, well, hey, like you're just simply got rotation from the high back to the POC, back to the low, right? You're just within your volume profile. So here are your levels for width. Value area low, which is currently holding at about 44 cents. POC sits at about 55 cents. And your next target here to the upside would be the value area high, which, let me pull this up on a 4-hour time frame. Just clean it up a bit. Value area high sits here at about 69, almost 70 cents, right? So this is the range that you're working within right now for whiff. So if you do continue up, right, that is a big, big level to get above. And technically, you've gotten the full rotation from the low to the POC to the high, or from the low to the POC. You can look for that full rotation to the high if we can get that continuation up. 69 to 70 cents would be that zone. And again, if I try to pull this crazy fib from the wick high to the wick low, we're already above that golden pocket, so I'll take that off the chart because it's already been smashed. You have the 786 sitting here, so it is going to be a level to keep an eye on, right? That is your next key level of resistance to look at on whiff. Continue up, 60, 69 to 70 cents. Now, I'll call it 68 to 70 cents. If we get above this volume profile, right, you can look here for a potential correction or another dump to the downside. If you get above that 786 value area high, well, these are now old. Yeah, I would just look at this range, right? Like, I'm not even going to cover this until we get up there, right? I would just say your next target to the upside would be about 68 to 70 cents on whiff. If you get the confirmations, it could get that rejection back down again because it is the 786 Fibonacci retracement and 12-hour money flow in the red, 16-hour money flow in the red, daily money flow in the red, 2-day money flow in the red. 3-day money flow trending out here. Again, been pretty choppy, but that is trending down. You got your VWAP coming up. So, again, I would let it settle. This is your next target to the upside. If you could break out up there, right, I would say you're just back within your, in between your two balanced areas, right? You have balanced area number 1, right? Price freaks out. It settles in balance, right? If we get above here, your hope is to break above this value area low POC to get the bigger move up. But I wouldn't really be looking at that until you get the breakout here. That is your local key level of resistance. And then if I pull my fib from the pinpoint high here all the way to that wick low, see where this comes in. And, of course, it is very confluent with that zone of resistance, right? So just from like a macro outlook, a lot of work to do here. Very similar to XRP, right? It's like, well, hey, actually, I'm going to leave this. But it's the same thing as XRP, right? It's like support, try to get support. Like, this is all going to be resistance on the way up. So if you get back out of here, you know, you're still going to be fighting all this resistance before potentially looking for another move down. It wouldn't be until we got on top of this golden pocket at 92 cents that I'd be looking up towards the 786 at $1.11. And then maybe you can continue your way to the upside. I don't want to get too carried away here, right? Like, we're still really far away from these levels. So I would just watch this volume profile. Value area high 68 to 70 cents, POC at 55 cents, and then your value area low here at 44 cents. Just for shizzies and giggies here. Let's pull from the low to, yeah, it's super far off. So yeah, that's what I would look at on whiff, to be honest. I don't want to cover too much of this upper price action until we get a move. So right there, that's the level to get above and to even entertain coming back up and fighting all this resistance. Because, yeah, like even if I were to look at this as a clean chart, just pull that as a range, right? Like this is always going to be resistance on the way up, right? It's like you got the big breakdown. Are you just going to come up and hit your head on those ranges before continuing down, or are you going to be able to break above them and then continue that move to the upside? Based off money flow right now, I'd be very careful of those pushes to the downside, right? Just very simply put. Money flow is going to keep you on the right side of those trades more often than they don't. So that's what I look at them with. Let's see. Shout out to Helps says Bears clapped. Yeah, well, Bulls absolutely destroyed, and then all the Bears got destroyed as well. Yeah, it's a quick little washer machine move, typical of our favorite asset class, crypto. Shout out to Leo said, anyway, or are you able to share your process of how you journal your trades or any tips for journaling? Shout out to Leo. Well, to be quite honest, I don't really journal that much anymore. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. I would actually highly recommend that you do. The only tips I could really give you for journaling is I would definitely, obviously, journal why you took the trade, even if you didn't take a trade, right? If you have a setup that you're waiting for, because remember, trading is a game of trapping, not a game of hunting. So let's just assume you have a key level here, you're looking to take a long, you come in, you don't take the long, and it plays out. I would still journal that. I had a setup come in here. I didn't take the position for these reasons, right? And I would definitely also focus on not just the technical journaling, but also like the emotional journaling. Like we got the move down there. There was a big, a big drop. There was bearish news. I was very nervous. I saw my confirmations, but I didn't take it because I got nervous, right? That's important to understand. That's why you didn't take the trade, especially if it played out. So I would recommend definitely journaling all your trades, but definitely add in a psychological, like not just why you were looking to take the trade, why you won it or why you lost it, what the plan was, but also journal what your thought process through that trade was. Even if you win it, it's like, wait, we got down there. I saw my confirmations. I took the trade. It was super scary. I was super stressed out, but it played out in my favor. I would journal all that, right? Because then next time you go to take a trade and it's super scary, but you have your confirmations, you might be able to go back there and look and like, wow, last 5 times I was really scared to take a position, but took it anyway because I had my confirmations. It played out in my favor. So I would definitely journal not just the technical stuff, but also the psychological stuff, because that is just as important. I would actually argue that it's even more important to understand like what was your thought process in that moment. Because you're not going to be able to analyze that while you're feeling those emotions. But if you're able to look back and see what went right or what went wrong with the trade, it's important to understand what those emotions were. Because if you treated it correctly and you did not listen to the emotions and you took the trade anyway, it's important to look back and be like, yeah, I was really scared there, but I took the position anyway because I saw those confirmations and it wound up working out. Right? So it's always important to go back and look at that stuff. So that's really the only tips I can give you as far as journaling. But I do think it's very, 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 very important. Render, Ordy, yeah, let's take a quick look at Render real quick. I think I have a Render chart here. Take a sip of that black coffee. There it is. All right. It's just like crazy. Guys, I've been in this market for quite some time. This is insane. Like, this is out of control. 87%. Maybe that was the bear market, guys. Maybe we just did the bear market. It was just quick and simple. Easy. Crazy. Absolutely insane. Again, like even just looking at the liquidations here over on CoinClass, it's just like, we've never seen anything like this before. I mean, this looks broken. But let's take a look here. So, all right, so we had the please mommy hold me level, which I guess you could argue was indeed the oh my god mommy hold me level. Like chillin', can't hold this, go to 0. Wasn't necessarily anticipating to go to 0 like that, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna keep this on the chart for similar reasons to the other things like Solana, right? It's like this was the level that you were hoping, low, high. You don't hold the golden pocket. You're hoping to hold that 786. We've now broken down below that, but if you could reclaim this, still be a pretty important level to get above, in my opinion. Yeah, but the weekly candle. Yeah, weekly candle closed below. I mean, you would really want to get above this. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this zone, right? Like, this is definitely a key level that you want to get back above. I can't really say that it's like a clean hold as of right now. But if you can get it back up, reclaim the 786, which, to be honest, is going to be pretty similar to just looking at this value area low, or maybe even just this value area. Yeah, I mean, how do I want to explain this in the easiest way? Get rid of this. Let me put this in a folder. Call this must reclaim. So I'll try to give you a, so just overall, right? Obviously, this is a key level, right? So if we lose this again, I would anticipate a fill of this range, potentially down to the POC and the value area low. And then, like, whether that winds up being another full-blown bear market to fill the wick and lower, maybe. But this is just very, very key. Value area high, right? Because obviously, if we lose that, we would be anticipating the same thing that essentially happened here, is just to rush through that profile. Man, this thing really dumped. So, major level. 224. You know, we're holding that right now. That's not that bad, right? You wick down, you clear out all this, and we're holding this as support. That is nice to see. But in order for me to, like, really anticipate some kind of a significant move up, I would really want to get back up in here, right? And then eventually flip this value area low, which sits at about 427, and that would be the case where we could potentially look for a bigger move up towards the point of control of the range. Now, we do have confluence here on the golden pocket, weekly MPOC, and the 786 point of control. So, if we get that full retracement here of what you would anticipate. Actually, you know what? I'll pull this to this high. So I'll make this a separate level, and then I'll mark this out as a major level. Value area high, POC, golden pocket. So these would be like the big levels, right? If you get some kind of massive move up here, you can reclaim the value area. Be careful around that POC, but at the end of the day, this is the real big range that you would want to see filled, as well as the full Fibonacci retracement. This will be the last opportunity, in my opinion, for the most part, even if you drag this all the way up to the high here. It's not much higher. It's like, we got to get out of this range. This is going to be huge. So take this off. But that's not really very helpful locally, right? So, very macro-wise, you want to stay above 224, and you want to get above 433. Now, if I go ahead and let me just bring this up here so we can get kind of organized. Whoops. Drag this in here. Drag this in here. Weekly MPOC. And, whoops. I will grab the volume profile. Macro range. So this is high time frame, right? Like, we're still pretty far away from that. Now, locally, could pull this as a local profile. So I would mark this off like this. I'll give you these levels as well if you want to get them on your chart. You have your value area low at 311, your POC at 379, and your value area high at 439. So these are more tangible kind of local levels, right? From the low, flip the low, to the POC, to the high, deviation, back in, can't get out. POC gives you the chop. You lose the POC back down to the low. So these would be like the local range to look at. If you can reclaim your value area low here at about 311, you could potentially look for a push up towards that POC. 379. Flip the POC, looking up towards about 439. So this would be the local range that I would look at. This is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. Let's take a look at the higher time frames. 4 hour red dot looking to print. Man, these wicks are going to be so annoying to pull these fibs from. Yeah, and I just don't even really like pulling fibs from these. Let me see here. Yeah. So locally, you can look at this for render. POC value area low. 786 POC. So key resistance sitting here between 307 and 322, and then above that, I would look at this. Really, the POC at 378, right? Depending on what time frame you look at the range on, that POC will move. So I'm going to keep that zone there, and that does sit between about 374 and 393, right? So if you're looking for lower highs and lower lows, right, this could be the first area to put it in, second area to put it in to continue that overall downtrend. Once you flip that 786, you can look up towards that value area high at 439. And then once you start cracking out of that range, you could simply, right, we have an area of value here, massive imbalance, right? Balance, massive imbalance, balance, imbalance. So you could just simply mark out that macro range, right? Like once you get to that value area high, you can see how this lines up. All right, if you're not going to get the lower highs and the lower lows, once you start flipping that value area low / value area high, that's your ticket to higher prices. So those are the two ranges that I would look at, locally and higher time frame. Break below 224, I'm looking for a much bigger drop down. Until then, we'll see if we can get accepted into here and be careful for those lower highs to come in. It's not until you break above here where I would be looking for some kind of a bigger significant move up. And at the end of the day, if we do get up there, you know, depending on what money flow looks like, this is typically where I'm looking for shorts. It's just a little difficult because you're deviating above the high, and as you deviate above this value area high, you're also potentially flipping this value area low to support. So it is a little bit of a difficult traditional volume profile short to look for. But contextually, key level number 1, key level number 2, obviously this is key as well, but flip that, bigger move to the upside, right? So there you go. And then again, looking at the daily, money flows in the red. So again, that's why I'm being careful of the lower highs and the lower lows. But until then, it's like, you know, key levels still being held on the higher time frames. These liquidation wicks are kind of just like everybody getting wrecked, and then price kind of settles right on top of that support, which is nice. So huge level, macro, 224. Do not want to lose it on render. Let's see. Let's see. Shout out to Avignon. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. He says, I'm out. I'll watch the replay. Frankie, appreciate the TA. You should hire a moderator. Your channel could be so much more professional without all this nonsense in the chat. Good luck to everybody. Shout out to Avignon. We do have mods. We do have moderators. Are there no mods in here today? That'd be crazy. That'd be like the first time we had no. Oh yeah, there's like no mods in here today. Oh my God, chat has just been like out loose running around without any moderators. Oh my God, actually pretty tame considering. All right, let's see. Shout out to Grumpy. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. He said CME hasn't swept its lows. And with over 17 billion in open interest, more than Binance, I'm wondering if you think it will. Would that mean perps could use that move to work the wick and sweep the liquidity before any real bounce? Shout out to Grumpy. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow, right? Because today is a holiday, so definitely a possibility. I think the simple answer to the question is definitely a possibility. We'll have to see what happens when everything opens tomorrow. So yeah, like today's not like the best day to like come in here and give like a full update because obviously it's a bank holiday. So yeah, I do think that could be possible. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll talk about it if it comes to fruition tomorrow. The mods got liquidated. Shout out to Scott. They're like, screw crypto, I'm out of here. All right, let's see. $100 chain link, possible. I mean, definitely going to be very, very, very dependent on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I it's like just too arbitrary of a question. Like, can Chainlink still hit $100? I mean, it's just relying on so much other stuff, right? Like for me to just say yes, $100 possible. It's like, I don't know. Like I could say it's a target, right? But it really, we have to let things play out here, right? Here is our key level that we looked at on Chainlink last week. Rejected from that PLC of the range. back down to the golden pocket 786. We slipped it. We did hold the value area low, which is nice. So I'll take this fib off the chart. This is really your big key level that we had on Chainlink. Golden pocket, value area low. As long as we stay within this range, the doorway to at least the POC at 27 and the value area high at $30 is still open. When you take a look at this actual golden pocket is pulled from this low to the high. That is held. So it's really this golden pocket. So let me actually hide this one so it's not super confusing. All right, so there's your golden pocket. This is pulled from this low to the high. Low, high, higher low, higher high. Could be in the cards here, right? Again, this is obviously dependent on how this plays out for Bitcoin, right? It's like too soon to just say like, oh my God, that's it, guys, like automatically up. But you are holding your golden pocket. You have not even tapped your 786 yet, so you have not really broken down any like super significant levels of support, right? At the end of the day, you got from the low, flip the low to support, push into the POC, and then that value area low is still acting as support. As long as you can hold above this level, the POC is still technically open. If we lose this golden pocket, your last level to look at is going to be this 786 sitting at 1426. Right, so let's say low, high, potential higher low on the golden pocket. Now, is this high probability? Well, when you start looking at the money flow, that daily money flow is not necessarily right pointing towards a massive higher low for a massive higher high. But money flow has been choppy. It's in the red. It's in the green. It's in the red, right? If this was some kind of massive red wave on money flow crossing back into the green, I'd feel much better about this golden pocket holding. So I would just say, you know, is this a level you could put a higher low in at? Yes. Is money flow pointing towards that being a massive higher low before higher prices? Well, very simply not. Money flow is coming out here, indicating much higher probability of a lower high and a lower low. If we do get the bigger breakdown, 786 sits at 1431. Once we lose that level, I'm going to eventually look to come back down and break this low here at about 1093. So there you go. That's what I would be looking at. This is still your massive zone of support. Right now, you're inside the volume profile. That's nice. If you slip it one more time, you have an opportunity to bounce off the 786 and get back in. Once you lose this, I'm looking to crack this low here at 1093. So that's what I would look at on Chainlink. Money flow looks the same as everything else. Oh, shout out to Chain said today's not. Thank you for the super chat, bro. He says today's not a bank holiday. Interesting. Volume, I assumed it was a bank holiday just because volume was super low and it is Columbus Day. So that is not a bank holiday. Thank you for that correction. So yeah, just weird low volatility. She's kind of grinding up there. So that's my mistake. Not a bank holiday, guys. But, you know, it could still, just the fact that it's a holiday could just still give you lower volume. I mean, I don't know. It's not like a holiday that people are really, like, out doing anything, so maybe not. But, yeah, I did just assume it was a bank holiday because I'm like, oh, it's a holiday, low volume. Oh, it's probably a bank holiday. Shout out to On-Chain. Appreciate that, bro. Let's see. Shout out to Wick589 said, I'm just saying, though, if you announce tariffs and that is the trigger for the bear market, I don't care how crypto-friendly you are or you paint yourself, you're not my friend anymore. Shout out to Wick589. Come on, Trump. Pump it back up. Pump it back up. Yeah, shout out to Scott said, no, most banks are closed today. Shout out to Scott. I thought today was a bank holiday. Somebody confirm that. At Tony D. I don't think he's in here. Oh no, Tony D is in here. Tony D said not a single scammer popped up on my live feed, so that's weird. No, I think they're just saying I don't know. I think that guy's mad that it's going down, to be honest with you. But I think he's just talking about like people spamming or whatever. Banks were closed. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I was right. I thought I was wrong, but now I'm right. I thought I was right. Then I was wrong. Now I just wound up being right. Yes, banks are closed. Okay. I was going to say, I'm not that crazy, guys. I'm not that crazy. So, yeah, never mind. Scratch that, guys. Bank holiday. Frank, do you look at stocks too? If so, check out Plug. The story behind it is interesting too. Thanks for doing what you do, bro. Shout out to Fighter Pilot. I appreciate you. Yes, we do look at stocks. I just keep an eye on it because obviously Bitcoin is going to follow the traditional markets as always, right? Like this is just the case. I know a lot of people argue 4-year cycle, halving cycle, all this stuff. Follows traditional markets. It's indisputable, right? It's just what we see happen. Do I think the supply shock has nothing to do with the movements on Bitcoin? No, I do believe in the halving cycle. Obviously, it's a real thing. But at the end of the day, the market moves with the rest of the markets, right? So like, you know, stock market's dump. We're expecting Bitcoin to follow suit. SPY obviously got the move down, right? A little retracement up. Basically, just looks the same as Bitcoin. The RTY, I think I covered this before. It's like we got the big drop down. Now we're just back at the resistance. I mean, we do not want to see this, right? Like pull from the high to the low here, right? We if we get the lower high here, like this is obviously not going to be great for altcoins. But in that same fashion, if we can get some kind of a scam out of here and start pumping aggressively, well, that could be very good for altcoins. It's just been a complete tease here. It's like, oh my God, RTY breakout. Oh my God, never mind. Oh my God, RTY breakout. Oh my God, never mind. Oh my God, RTY breakout. Never mind. Oh my God. Right? It's just like an absolute nail biter up here. So I would just say on the RTY, just watch this level here at about 24.76. We do not want to get accepted below this, right? We want to flip that to support for the bigger breakout, right? And again, maybe it's just another situation where it kind of just lollygags up here and then comes back down. But from a structure and technical standpoint, that 786 at about 24.75 is going to be the key level to look at for a potential lower high. If we get the lower high before the lower low, and again, I guess today is a bank holiday. Tomorrow we'll have a better idea of like what this is going to do. But we are back into retracement zones here. So yeah, total 2, same story. But yeah, he said take a look at plug. I'll take a quick look at it. I'm not gonna mark it up and everything. But I will take a look here. I assume it's this one. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time looking at this and charting this right now. But maybe I'll look at this and we'll take a look at it tomorrow after I mark up the chart. I just don't want to spend all the time marking it out. It's going to take a really long time. But interesting. I'll have to look into that. It's an interesting story with this one. I wonder what the interesting story is. Mr. Blake said low volume because the exchanges took all our liquidity. Could be the case. I'm just kidding. Let's see here. Shout out to Chris Klein. Welcome in, brother. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. K-Dub says October 10th is liquidity day. Yo, shout out to Guardian of Gala says every bear was once a bull who got wrecked. Probably. Very likely. I will say every permabull, or I'm sorry, every permabull eventually turns into a yeah, I mean, it's like, it's just so easy to get caught in the permabull kind of situation. And it's like, sometimes it takes that round trip for people to really start paying attention to like the next cycle and be like, you know what? Hey, I'm bullish, but let me entertain the idea of a bigger dump from here. Just because that was a permabull last time for I don't know what reason, and I got wrecked. Yeah, Bitcoin dominance hit 63.4%. We actually went over that already. But yeah, it like still, right? This is like one of the positive things on the chart here. Still, right? From a trend perspective, again, we just need more time to let this play out, right? Like daily money flow crosses into the green. We look for this retracement into our bigger key levels, but higher time frame, 3-day money flow in the red, 2-day money flow in the red, 4-day, money flow is looking to cross over into the red. Biggest key levels of resistance we had up here, first local retracement zone, and then you have the bigger golden pocket 786, and we actually did wick up through the first zone into the bigger golden pocket retracement, and we are now closing below that level, right? So the idea of lower highs and lower lows here still could be in the chart, in the cards, right? High, low, lower high, lower low, even with that wick up here. So this is one of the positive things, right? You would think if this is going to leak out and this money flow is going to cross over and we're going to get a bigger drop down on dominance, right? That can only mean one thing for altcoins, which would be up. So hopefully that is the case. But if we start cracking back into this range, we start flipping that POC, much different scenario. Shout out to Boss Man. Thank you for the super chat. Said maybe do it again, Neff, Peanut and Doge. Shout out to Boss Man. I don't know what the Neff thing is. Is Neff in here? Someone named Neff? Let's see. Yeah, shout out to Jesse. Says super chats don't guarantee that we'll look at it. But yeah, I could take a look at Dogecoin. I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to take a look at Doge. Thank you for the super chat, Boss Man. I think we already looked at Doge. Looked at Doge in the beginning of the stream. Yeah, just holding on top of this. Or no, maybe not. Maybe it was something that looked very similar to Doge. But Dogecoin still above our value area low of the range, right? Like this is the biggest level of support on the chart. We got the huge wick down, obviously, into our weekly MPOC, and this is literally exactly what we looked at on the chart. If we lose this value area low, where are the next key levels to look at? Well, you have a weekly MPOC down here at 12 cents, and then you got this one down here at 9 cents. And every time I bring this one up at 9 cents, I'm always kind of like, but really like, That's way far in advance. But obviously that liquidation brought us directly into that weekly MPOC. But, again, from a structure perspective, low, high, potential higher low on the golden pocket, which we obviously didn't get. That second higher low is potentially looking to come in here on that 786. But once we lost that level, the idea of the higher low is invalidated, and then we look to come back down to these next key levels. But again, this is interesting because it all happened on one big liquidation. And look, we're back above closing these higher daily time frame candles above the 786 and the value area low. Right? So could you look at this as a potential low, high, higher low for a potential higher high with this crazy liquidation wick? Maybe, right? But that's in the case that you don't come down and fill the wick. So again, it's very hard to make these calls right now because of that giant liquidation wick. But from a structure perspective, right, I could pretty much just say we're back above that value area low, regardless of what time frame you're looking at, right? Like even on the low time frames, right? Like the wick closes above here on top of that 786, which is that key level. And we are now potentially looking to reclaim. Let me get rid of this golden pocket. We are now looking to potentially reclaim this value area low, sitting at about 20 cents. So if we could stay on top of this range, 20 cents, push up towards that local POC at about 23 cents, flip the POC, look to go up to the high towards about 25 cents. Whoops. Pull our local fib here from the high to the low. And we're already above that golden pocket. Right, so I'll take this off. I would say the next target to the upside for Dogecoin, if you could hold on top of this value area low, is going to be sitting between 232 and 239, right? Basically 23 to 24 cents. That'd be the next target. Break on top of that POC, right? If you put in a lower high here, could get the big rejection. But if you can get above that, I would simply just be looking for this volume profile to push you back into your value area high of the range. And even from a high time frame perspective, again, you are just simply within. Let me just. Organize this a bit. All right, that's just your local range. High time frame. Super sketchy. That was our key level of support. It is where all the candles are closing. It is what we are holding currently. It's just that wick, that suspicious wick here at this point. But I would still say, right, like you're still above, right? I said I would not be worried about Dogecoin until we lost this value area low. Obviously, we lost it momentarily. Should we have been worried? Yes. Did we get the drop down to the next key levels? Yes. But now we're back above it. So I would still say this value area low is key, right? If we can come back down here, as long as you can stay inside this range, doorway to the POC and the value area high are still open. If we wind up getting the rejection out of here and we can't get back into the range, well, hey, then maybe we go to fill the wick to lower prices. That's a much more bearish scenario. But right now, we're still inside the volume profile. So that looks okay for me. But again, 12, 16-hour money flow in the red, daily money flow also in the red. So you have to be careful of those lower highs and lower lows, which, of course, I'd be looking here for the first, and then the second place to look would be right on that value area high. So these are the next local levels. If you're not going to put in the lower high, I would say break out of this 786 at 26 cents. If we can get back above this, hey, let's send it up to the value area high. But until then, lower highs could be in the cards. So that's what I would look at on Dogecoin, or Doggy Coin, as some people like to say. And also gold. Shout out to Skull said, look at gold, Pax G. If we just look at gold, just regular gold here, guys. We've talked about this, right? What did we want to see on gold to be good news for Bitcoin, right? Well, we kind of wanted to reject this major resistance level. If we broke above this, the next target was sitting all the way up here at about $4,200. And literally, we break above that Fibonacci extension, and we just start cooking directly up into that last level, right? Again, at $4,200. This is not what we wanted to see on gold, unfortunately. So, and we are approaching resistance, but it's like, I don't know. We'll have to start pulling some new levels if we start breaking out here. But next fib level here on gold, $4,200. Not what we wanted to see here. Oh, man. Absolutely crazy. You know, gold is a slow mover. But lately it's just been on a parabolic bull run. And I know a lot of people look at this side by side on Bitcoin. It's like gold gets the big rip up and usually Bitcoin follows. Maybe I can actually pull this up real quick if I overlay Bitcoin on top of this. Oops. Let me see. Where do they talk about that at? I saw somebody talking about this recently. Yeah, it's like gold gets the rip and then tops out, and then Bitcoin gets the rip. Saw some people looking at this. I forget where. I think I saw it on Instagram, somebody talking about that. I mean, could that be the case? Maybe. But again, it's just like from a cycle perspective, it just doesn't make as much sense to me. That'd be nice, right? But in order for us to see like Bitcoin just follow suit on that, right? It's like got to happen really fast, or we're just in a completely super elongated cycle, which again, I can't predict that that's going to happen. This time is different. People typically get wrecked, guys. And by typically, I mean every single time. The bears and the bulls. The bulls that wanted lower for Bitcoin at, $8,000, they all got cooked, right? Oh my God, we're going to 8K. Bottom comes in at 115, send it up, right? Everyone that's calling for massive higher prices, those guys will probably, oh my God, super cycle, those guys get wrecked. Oh my God, this is the biggest bear market ever. You don't understand, this time is different. Those guys get wrecked too. So the bulls and the bears get wrecked on either side of that. But yeah, I mean, maybe, if we can get maybe gold to top out at that next Fibonacci level, we can see, Bitcoin potentially follow suit. Something I'll keep an eye on. But yeah, we really wanted that rejection. And clearly on gold, we just simply did not get it. Just ripped right through it into your next Fibonacci zone. Ugh. Yikes. Silver as well. Yeah, silver's absolutely cooking as well. 100%. Let's see here. Shout out to New World Disorder says, never hesitate or reconsider when taking profits. Just take it. Yeah. I mean, hey, no one ever complained about making money. And although it does, I was talking to Tony D about this today. He was talking to me about a trade that he was in, and he's like, man, like, why am I having such trouble taking profit? And I was like, dude, my long that I took profit on last week, guys, I locked in $7,000, and I was still kind of like pissed off. Why? It was just because my brain thinks like, oh, maybe we'll go higher, and I could have made more money if I kept more of the position open. But guess what? I wound up being a good decision. I locked in that 7K, and we wound up nuking, and then the short wound up paying us out. But the I'm happy I took that profit, right? If I was just hoping for that big move up, guess what happens, right? You're going to hold that all the way back down, and all that work, all that profit has just gone to loss. So you definitely don't want to do that. No one ever complained about making money. Shout out to G7 said, so depressing, but appreciate the heads up. Yeah, and again, guys, I'm not saying that the top is necessarily in. I'm just saying, you do have to start to be careful here. And again, if you just tuned in, scroll back to the beginning of the stream. I cover all that. I'm not going to go over it again just to save time. If anything, early Q1 2026... but it's going to be volatile. Yeah. I don't know if you're talking about like maybe the last pop to the upside. Yeah. I mean, listen, timing wise, guys, again, like I hate to bring this up again. We're just getting pretty close, right? This doesn't mean that the top has to come in on this day, right? Which is October 20th. That doesn't mean the top has to come in this day, right? These are just typical areas where we see big rotations in the market. The nice thing is, right? Like maybe if we get the correction down, if we are going to see something different and we get the continuation down, like maybe that is a big pivot to the upside. But just understand it from a timing perspective here. If you believe in the 4-year cycle, because I think there's a lot of people too that are just like, yeah, but the 4-year cycle, like, don't we have to have alt season and all this stuff happen? It's like, well, if you believe in the 4-year cycle, you would be looking at this as at least getting close to the end. Whether we have to push up in here, and again, could it push into the end of 2025? Maybe even early 2026. We see something slightly different happen. But from a timing perspective, you wouldn't expect this to go much further than this line right here. And again, it's not me just saying the top has to come in here, right? Reactionary based trader. But just from a general timing perspective, we are definitely not just like beginning the cycle here. We are now, let's get the actual measurement here. I'll pull up the daily. We are now at 539 days from the halving to our current price action. This is 545 days was the longest it's ever taken from the halving to the top. We are now approaching that area. And again, it doesn't mean you can't go a little. Maybe this one will be the longest one. But I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be like super, super different, right? I would still expect it to come in like in that ballpark. And again, you can't just like look at a date and be like, oh, sell on this date, right? Maybe that works out long term, maybe it doesn't. But you know, if we scam up here, right? It's like, all right, well, hey, like, what does the chart look like at this point? My guess is probably looking for a top. But if it looked really good, maybe we can just look, hey, guys, super cycle. I just don't see. It's just really hard to call for that, right? Because again, everybody just gets wrecked when they look for this time to be completely different. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Shout out to Guardians of Gaia. Says, please talk about the macro bearish divergence that is screaming at us. Yeah, shout out to Guardian. Actually, already covered that. We've talked about all these macro bearish divergences and why everybody was screaming about the divergences up here. They were screaming about the divergences up here. Don't you get it? 2021, that was the all-time high. It was the same exact signals, and this looks exactly the same. Don't you understand? This is the top of the cycle. It's the bear market. I obviously was not in that camp. I thought we would make a new all-time high, and we did. But I would agree, right? We do have those macro bearish divergences. This is why I say it's not, you know, it's a very, I could see arguments for both sides of the coin here, right? For the continuation up for, in my opinion, that last grand finale, if we get it. I would not expect that to be the start of the bull market. But clearly this bull market has been going on for quite some time. But when we have these bearish divergences forming at where we are in the cycle, it is definitely something to pay attention to at this point. This is not the same thing as when I was looking at these bearish divergences. A lot of people, and I had looked at them, right? But a bunch of people came in and they were like, don't, you know, this is the top. This is the top. This is the top, man. But we just had enough time. We didn't have rate cuts, right? We didn't have the, we had a bunch of time left in the cycle to put in a new all-time high. So it was a lot easier for me to look at this as, of course, a bearish signal, right? We were looking at that to capitalize on our short position from 102K all the way down to 75K. But again, it wasn't necessarily that macro top situation, even though it looked very similar up here as it did in 2021. You know, not just because it played out in the past doesn't mean it's going to play out again. But now when we start to look at these bearish divergences, which are still printing, right? Like, I mean, even just like all across here, higher high, higher high, higher high, lower high, lower high, lower high, even locally here, higher high, lower high, weekly bearish divergence is now printing here. When you have it this close to the end of the cycle, it's definitely something to worry about, right? Or at least to think, well, hey, this is a different situation than back here. Why? Well, we're getting to the end of the cycle, and now we're seeing, like, why did I not think these signals, even though they were the same thing we saw back here, why did I not look at them as, like, super bearish, right? Well, I did for the move down, but I didn't think it was going to be the top because of where we were in the cycle. At this point, we have these things, and we are towards the end of the cycle here, right? So it's like definitely a little bit more alarming over here than it was back here and back here. So yes, we actually already covered that in the beginning of the stream. But yes, they are there, and it is happening towards, you know, where you would expect some kind of a top to come in. So again, not what I'm rooting for, guys. I am just hoping this is just one crazy liquidity sweep before we get that big move to the upside. But even if we get that, I'm still looking at that as, you know, much more bullish scenario pushing us into, you know, 137 to 155K. But I again, would not be screaming, oh, my God, guys, super cycle here, unless I had a reason to. Maybe if there's a reason up there to call for a super cycle, I'll say it. But I would still just be looking at that as, like, massive resistance and a potential top incoming on Bitcoin. And then hopefully we can get the altcoins. You know, we're entering the rate cutting cycle. We still have a little bit of time left in the cycle from a timing perspective, which, again, is not black or white. We have the Bitcoin dominance, still getting the potential lower high here. We still have to wait for more information, but right now it is looking like you can put that lower high in, and it does look like just a liquidity sweep at this point. So there are positive things here on the chart, guys. It's just I have to show that other side. If someone asked me, are you bearish or bullish? It's very difficult. There's 100% an argument on both ends of the coin here. But I just think it's irresponsible for me to come up here and be like, that's it, guys, liquidity sweep, send it to $1 million, right? So we'll see what happens. And I'll be here to walk you guys through every step of the way, every up, every down. Every day we'll be live here. I'll drop the market updates if we see anything crazy happen. And then we'll see, assuming today is actually a bank holiday, we'll see what happens when everything happens tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow when we open. But yeah. Let's see. Shouldn't there be a big catalyst too? Yeah, shout out to Base Bailey. Typically, you know, you will see, like, maybe we get that big catalyst to get that big push to the upside. What could it be? I don't know. At this point, I just really don't know. But yeah, I mean, again, like, we might get super bullish news tonight and start pushing up to new all-time highs. Who knows? But I'll keep you guys updated here every single step of the way. If you just tuned in, scrub back to the beginning of the stream. We're already going over time here, guys. But, of course, the stream deck is open. I mean, broken, not open, broken. It is Monday, guys. But with all that being said, that's all the time we got for tonight's live stream. I appreciate every single one of you guys pat yourself on the back if you endured that massive liquidation week without panic selling. But, we got the bullish cases, the bearish cases. At this point, guys, I am playing this level to level. I don't have a strong conviction. I mean, we are above 107 to 108K. Technically, the doorway to all-time highs is open. I would still say closing below that 50-week moving average, as well as the 786 that we looked at earlier in the stream. That's really, if we start hanging out down there, closing daily candles, weekly candles down there, that's where I really start to say that it looks like the top is in on Bitcoin. But with this big liquidation and the big snap up, we're just not there just yet. We're going to have to see if we can get that fill the wick situation to play out, or if we can get that break and short squeeze to the upside. So I'll update you guys as things develop. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Shout out to Eugene Sky. Shout out to Guardian. Shout out to Wick 589. Mont, Eric, Brillo, Harry Potter. Shout out to Base Bailey. Shout out to Jesse. And last but not least, shout out to Quiet Man and Vegas Claw. That's all the time I got for today's live stream. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same place, same time, right here, 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Frank Candles YouTube channel. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Look what's next for me, Joe. I'm gonna get that second bell. Where the f*** is it? They should have had them two bells ready. Space shine for me.
Yeah. Head up in the clouds, dog, they saying I look stressed. I've been feeling down, pray to God that I'm up next. Remember when she blew me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test. Now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, don't know what is in me. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy. Too many people around me, I'm finicky. I do not mess with you, dog, you're not kidding me. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up, whose man's high. Through it all, I stay the same, I swear to God, I can't lie. Been down so damn low that I came up for my life. They talk way too much on the internet, it's not real life. I swear my fam waiting, I can't lose, and I'm still right. Still right, I swear that I'm working, I'm up till like midnight. It's real life, I got a time and I'm coming to get mine. In time, I cannot lose and I'm coming right inside. I'm in my, yeah.
And real quick here, guys, I don't think I brought up the liquidity heat maps tonight. So just a quick look at where that liquidity is sitting, guys. Obviously, on the previous live streams, we have talked about the 108 down to $107,000 liquidity. Has now been obviously very much swept out. But the next significant area of liquidity that we have up above us, I would say, like, it's not even really like the next super significant level is going to be sitting above about $123,000 above all of these highs. Yeah, I would say $123,000. And when we take a look at the actual Bitcoin chart, it's like pretty much above this wick, 122.5, right? Like we have a lot of liquidity sitting up there. So if I were to mark that off on the chart, I would probably mark it off. And of course, above the all-time high as well. I'm not going to try to get the exact dollar amount or, dollar top of that. But just to understand where those liquidations sit, a lot of liquidity sitting up here. A lot of the liquidity down here below 107K has been washed out. Obviously, we looked at that all last week. Although I was hoping for more of something like this where, we could come down, put in like a nice daily bull div to sweep out some of that liquidity. But of course, it was a little bit more aggressive here. But I would say most of that liquidity, looking at the heat map, is sitting up here above about 122.5, for like pretty much right above this wick right here. Liquidity sitting above, leading up to about 125K. And then above that, it's all sitting above the all-time high. And then locally, if I really were to hone this in, got a little bit sitting at about 117, and then a little bit above $120,000. And again, looking at the kind of gap in volume that we have, break above this $117,000 level could be that quick pop-up through that liquidity into the value area high. And then again, once we get up here, you got to be careful with those shorts because you might be able to just squeeze out that liquidity for the push up. So we didn't cover that liquidity, just to show you guys. It's all sitting up here. And then you have like little tiny pockets that are way less significant, like sitting up in here. So that's where the liquidity is sitting. Hopefully it was just the sweep, guys. When you look at the significant liquidity, it's all washed. all of the rest of it is sitting up here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go take that. But hopefully, right? Like, that's the hope. There's a liquidity sweep. Send it back up, please. Somebody pray for Bitcoin. Start a liquidity sweep chant in the chat to hopefully help Bitcoin get that bigger move up. But that's all the time I got, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time. You know the rest. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal